Good evening, everyone. Good evening and welcome to the Brighton Area Schools Board of Education meeting. As we begin the meeting, I would ask Commander Steve Conaway to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Everybody, please stand and if appropriate, uncover. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Ms. Ackermeyer, roll call, please.
Mr. Storm.
present.
Mr. Conley.
Here.
Mr. Trombley. Mrs. Marks. Here. Dr. Krebs. Here. Ms. Reed. Here. Mr. Myers.
Here. All right, that moves us to the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion? Moved by Dr. Krebs, supported by Ms. Reed. Any discussion? Mr. Storm?
Magic button here. One item, Roger, that I mentioned to you in the hall on the way up, and again, open to how we can best handle it as a board, but wanted to just bring to this particular meeting, as I brought up last meeting, the parking situation at Scranton along the road that goes back to the lacrosse, soccer, football fields, and seeking guidance on how we as a board want to open up the discussion and ultimately identify a path forward that works for all members of the community.
Yeah, and I think it would be appropriate for us at the board committee chair reports. This is a topic that's going to be subject, as I mentioned, of discussion tomorrow at our bond facilities meeting, but it's certainly fine for us to have an advanced conversation about that this evening, and we can talk about some of the challenges that we're facing and how we deal with that going forward. So I think that's probably the best time to do that.
Sounds good.
Okay.
And I had one other item. A parent reached out via email regarding the reference in our last session to conducting an analysis on programming and specifically looking at encore classes, the opportunity or the options that are available for students. And again, just looking for guidance from the rest of the board on if there would be an interest amongst the board to have a discussion or conversation about that, or if members of the board feel that administration will be moving forward on what was discussed, and that is the analysis, conducting a formal analysis to look at what's contributing to the low enrollment in the arts in Brighton and options for students specific to their encore class options. And again, I'm open to what the collective board feels would be best as far as being able to discuss that, but I just wanted to bring it forward as a follow-up item from last meeting.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's not something that we'll be adding onto the agenda this evening, but it's from my perspective, and I think it's shared by everyone. That's a topic that we want to explore with administration, because not just with regard to the arts, but as was mentioned at the last meeting, the more opportunities that we provide for our students, particularly with respect to electives and AP courses, it's a blessing and a curse because we're giving them more opportunities, but we're also at the same time diluting the existing programming and potentially threatening the longer term viability of those programs. And so I think it's a discussion that we as a board have to have philosophically, where we want to move forward. And we can obviously discuss the process how we do that.
So I think that this is on the agenda for the next curriculum committee meeting.
Perfect.
So I think that's where it'll start, and then it'll go forward to the full board after that discussion.
Perfect.
Thank you, Dr. Krebs. All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0. Moves us to superintendent report. Dr. Elba.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for everybody for being here this evening. I'm very excited to start off with, we're going to be doing some shining stars for one of our incredible programs here within the district. So to set this off here, I'm going to bring forward Bill Renner, who's going to begin our conversation about our unified program.
Well, Good evening, everyone. I'm Bill Renner. I'm one of the grade level principals at Scranton Middle School right here at Brighton. And
Resident movie star, I might add.
a movie star. I don't know what you mean. Oh, the newsletters. Well, the newsletters, is that what you're referring to? Star is, subjective word. Yeah. But anyway, he's reading the newsletters. That's great. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. We'd love that. I was a part of something. So I'm an administrator here, and I have been for a number of years. And I want to tell you, like, the goal for an administrator is simply to inspire teachers. And the goal of a teacher is to hopefully take that inspiration and apply it to the students. My wife and I experienced something absolutely magical from some of the folks that are here today. We got Coach Jack Crayer, Jody Reneker, Andy Dupay couldn't make it. He's in this Shining Star as well. John and Michelle Crayer in the back as well are Shining Stars that are nominated. And I just want to tell you a quick little story. The recent event from a Brighton High School graduate marked a significant milestone in a local college of inauguration of their first unified basketball tournament. This event brought together athletes from Special Olympics from Southeastern Michigan and a vibrant college athlete and the staff audience. The gymnasium echoed with cheers supporting a noble cause and celebrating inclusivity in sports. The success in the tournament was overwhelming and inspiring several other colleagues to initiate similar events. This achievement underscores the profound impact of our nominees. Their dedication and leadership have fostered a spirit of unity and competition among the students, have ignited a movement that extends well beyond the confines of Brighton area schools. Jody, Andy, Michelle, John, and Jack's guidance have influenced and have been instrumental. They have ignited a passion of students and teams and sparking a flame that promises to spread even further, promoting inclusivity, camaraderie through sports across educational institutes. It was something absolutely magical to watch. A former Brighton area school graduate taking this, who's not in education, he just took it, went to a college, said, hey, this is what we need to do. I was a part of this with Brighton area schools. And my wife and I were just in awe to watch what we're doing here makes a difference beyond Brighton area schools, beyond Livingston County. And so for that, I wanted to share that impact with Jody Reneker, if you could come on up, Coach Jack Crayer, John and Michelle, and of course, Andy Dupay. Just want to say thank you. It was great, yeah. So, you want to go right up. Go right up. Dr. Arlo, do you want them to come up or continue on?
Whatever.
Come on up. Come on.
What do you want me to do?
Go, yeah. You want to go up?
Come on over here.
Jack, come on up.
Introduce yourself.
John and
Want to
Michelle,
talk about the
come
program?
on up.
Okay, you want me to introduce myself?
Yeah, come on over and
Come over
talk
here.
first.
You want me to introduce
Oh, okay.
Okay, real quick, can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? So for those of you who don't know what Special Olympics Unified Sports are, it started in 2015. Brighton started it in, I believe, 2017. My colleague Andy Dupay brought it to Brighton. And it's a simple premise. You put kids with disabilities and kids without disabilities on the same team. We train, we compete, and it's, I'm so proud. The idea is simple. It's a premise that, like, we're going to build a community here, understanding, respect, inclusion, but it's so much more, obviously. And you don't want to listen to me blubber on about this. I got a couple kids up here that I'd like to say a couple words. Is it okay if they come up? Okay. I got Luke Whitaker. He's a senior. He's a link in our program and has played Unified with us, and his words are better than mine.
Yeah, so I actually thought I was supposed to talk about the Link program tonight. So our Link program at the school, run by like Mr. Reneker and Mr. Dupay, and all of the students in there play a unified program as well. So I'll just talk about that. So I decided to take Link my junior year, and while I was not familiar with the specifics of the program, I felt it would give me another opportunity to get experience in a different area. So on the first day of school, I walked into the Link classroom, and right away, I knew this was not like any other ordinary class, but would ultimately change my life. As I started to get to know and work with these students, I realized that these individuals each have a very special and unique qualities. Every day in class is always an adventure, and you will always find yourself laughing and sharing eventful moments with the students. While much of our LINK program involves us, the LINKs, helping our students with work such as math and English, the LINK program also gives students opportunities to do tasks like delivering mail, handing out and making coffee for teachers, and delivering packages, which will allow them to grow in ways that will help them in the future. My favorite part of this program has been being able to work one-on-one with my students and see the growth that they have experienced over the school year. I love how this program is continuing to grow and to gain awareness both in and outside of our school, such as unified sports, as well as interaction with other classes on outdoor projects. Overall, the LINK program has changed the trajectory of my life and has inspired me to pursue my passion for helping others. I am proud to say that I have contributed to this program, and I know that the lessons that I have learned and the relationships that I have built will remain with me for the rest of my life. Thank you.
And this is, get over here. This is Cassie. She's also a LINK and part of our Unified program.
So Unified has impacted my life in so many ways. I've got to meet amazing people that share the same values and passion that I do. I also get to play sports and spend time with some of my favorite humans. Well, I don't really play the sports. I take pictures and I'm #1 hype man. Unified has shown me how respectful, understanding, and inclusive a community can truly be. My favorite part of Unified is seeing the smiles on our athletes' faces because they know how loved and supported they are. My brother, Derek, he plays for Unified, and he has a few words that he wanted me to share with you today. He says, Unified helps me by making sure that I have fun and support the team and cheer the other teams on too. I had a great experience with Unified. Unified has positively affected my family by bringing my brother and I closer. It gave us something that we could both love and look forward to. Unified couldn't be as successful as it is without all our families, the community, and our amazing coaches. I'm honored to have been a part of this amazing group.
And to speak about what Bill said, I was so proud when I got the picture of the jersey. Because as teachers, you work really, oh, I'm so sorry. You work really hard, but when you see something like that a kid is taken from Brighton and it's like a ripple effect, you know everything's going to be okay. So I'm so proud of him and all of them, all these guys. And this is a fraction of it. We had baseball tonight, lacrosse tonight, you name it. We had a lot of kids that couldn't make it. So this is just a fraction of the kids that we work with. So thank you. And thanks to our administrator, our big one back there, Matt Evans, because they support us, you know, without even, yeah, there he is. Say hi to Mr. Evans, everyone. So I think, we're good? Okay.
Yeah.
Can you show them how to walk around? Shake hands. Do not hug. Shake hands. No, you go first. You go. You go.
Coach, good job. Good job. Congratulations. All right. Great job. All right. Congratulations. Oh, great job, buddy. Great job. Okay. Good job, guys. Well done.
Nice job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I'll take them. Thank you so much. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Will do.
Every time. He wouldn't have started with that.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Did you want to say anything? Yeah.
Yeah.
Up to
So
Unified.
on behalf of the board, I want to congratulate all of you for being here tonight and your show of support and the support, frankly, throughout the year for the Project Unified program. We are very blessed to have such a extensive amount of not only the leaders in our district as part of the staff, but the students and their commitment to the program and the impact that they make, not only obviously in Brighton, but as evidenced by the story shared this evening. This is what really is a testament to what Brighton stands for and what we, we're so excited about and proud of, that you take what you experience in Brighton and spread it for the good in the world. And it's just an amazing story. And we're very fortunate to have such a phenomenal program in our district, and look forward to all the future success and impact that program has. So thank you for being here tonight. We really appreciate it. Congratulations. And we look forward to another exciting year of Project Unified next year. Thank you.
Okay, next up, I would like to invite Colleen Devon and our folks from the bridge to come forward. And I think I'm going to be joining them as well.
Sure. Good evening. I recruited some of our staff, and as a staff, we nominated Colleen through Mayo, which is Michigan Alternative Education Organization, back in February. And when I think it was in April, I received the notice that she was chosen. Thank you. Chosen as Outstanding Administrator of the Year. So I'd like to present our Outstanding Administrator of the Year.
Just to be clear on this is for the entire state of Michigan. She is the Alternative Education Leader of the Year. So this is a very big deal. I want to congratulate Colleen. She is so dedicated. Our Bridge program really provides an alternate education environment for students, helping each and every student to be successful, which requires a big heart and it requires patience, it requires belief, and Colleen exemplifies that. She was nominated by her staff, and we just want to say thank you, Colleen, for everything you do for the district. So, thank you. Thank you, Colleen. All right, next up, we have our student report. We have Tyler Langley coming forward with his couple weeks left in his senior year. He's done a great job as our student liaison for the second half. So thank you, Tyler.
Thank you, Mr. Outlaw. All right, I think this is my last one, so I tried to include a little bit of what we all accomplished for the year, as well as what we're accomplishing right now at Brighton High School. So let's go. So senior class council, they are doing a ton right now, planning for graduation. They're planning for senior sunset. They're also working on the scholarship banquet for all of our amazing seniors that won scholarships this year. They'll get a chance to be celebrated coming up soon. And the thing I wanted to highlight about them this year is they worked super hard all year to make this, everyone in the senior class have a special year and something to remember. And they've just done an incredible job. I know for fact, like, we would not have gotten so many of these opportunities without their hard work and dedication to our school. So I want to thank them. Junior class council, they're currently planning prom, so they're also up to a lot. It's going to be Roaring 20s this year. It's on June 1st. Last day to buy tickets is this Wednesday, so buy your tickets fast. And tickets are $75. And they're most proud of winning float building this year for for earlier this year. Yeah, so I think they're just gloating against the seniors a little bit, trying to, I don't know. Freshman class council, they're talking to Mr. Urbain's leadership class at Scranton tomorrow. And they're just talking about the process for running council and the things to do at BHS. So these types of things are like what you can get involved in your freshman year, just making sure that the incoming freshmen really know that they can get involved immediately. And they will also be hosting their big event of the year on Thursday. So they're hosting tours for the incoming freshmen, and they're also hosting an assembly. So that's just a perfect way just to get the 8th graders a little bit more comfortable with coming into the big high school, and they're working hard on it. Exec board, they just had a lunch for the teachers last week for teacher appreciation, and they cooked some burgers, hot dogs, and cookies, and I was told it was really good. They were really proud of homecoming this year. It was disco theme, and it was just a great turnout. And they also just wanted to thank the teachers of Brighton area schools for just how incredible they are. Teacher Appreciation Week was last week, and we just really appreciate all of them. Leadership, we're working on the Senior Survivor Assembly and working with the incoming, with the freshman class council for the incoming freshman assembly. And as well, we'll have the Lip Dub premiere Wednesday on the 15th. So we're really excited about that. It's gonna be awesome. So make sure to check out the announcements page of the YouTube, BHS announcements, if you want to see it. It should be like 10, 15 minutes. It's pretty sweet. Then I just wanted to review on our athletics/clubs that for the whole year, because it's my last time and I love the athletics and clubs at Brighton High School. So girls pom, shout out to their national championship, our year of second place with girls golf, boys cross country, and boys soccer. And then I just wanted to let everyone know that Brighton has over 70 clubs/teams. So there's truly something for everyone. I went through and counted a ball today. It's just absolutely amazing how diverse our extracurriculars are. And then NHS, we have 3,764 total hours this year of community service. And next week is Survivor Week. So right now we have a tag fundraiser going on. So there's full like school tag. It's pretty crazy. You got like a bandana. It's $5 to enter. I already lost. So apparently I'm better at running than walking, and you have to walk. And there's 9 teams for Senior Survivor, and many of the teams have already started fundraisers. We have the Sunflower Project and Fund a Life as our 2 fundraising organizations this year. And then lastly, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that makes this, BAS run, because I've had an amazing 13 years here, and I really appreciate every single one of you and all my teachers. So thank you.
Thank you, Tyler.
Okay, thank you, Tyler. Appreciate it. Good luck to you. So next up, we are going to have another special group come forward. They're going to do a little bit of a presentation. They're going to preview something that is on the future action section of the agenda tonight. We are blessed in this district with an outstanding medical staff. We have 2 district-wide nurses that provide oversight throughout the district and intervention throughout the district, as well as 5 medical assistants, and they will talk about this. They're going to give a little bit of a preview of what's offered in this district. And then they're going to preview some medical response kits that are part of that security work that was done by our SEC security review. And they're going to show a recommendation for what's called a medical response bag that will go in each one of our classrooms. So take it away.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. My name is Linda Barrett, and this is Katie Godfrey, and we are the Brighton Area Schools District Nurses. Tonight, we'd like to tell you a little bit about what we do and how our medical team supports all of our schools. And lastly, show you the bleeding control kit that we would like to implement in each classroom at the start of next school year.
So we really do have a great medical team here at Brighton Area Schools, and we're truly one of a kind. We're a one of a kind service that we provide for the entire county, and one of the few in the state of Michigan. So you have Linda and I at the top, and we do oversee, as Dr. Outlaw said, our entire staff and medical team. We have a nice mix of personnel. So we do have some medical assistants, we have a licensed practical nurse, and then we have a registered nurse who chose to join us here at Scranton, or chose to join us here at Scranton Middle School. So that's been a great service for that building since it is such a large student population with a lot of needs. Most of our clinics, as you can see, I know the typo or the typing is a little bit small down there, but have full-time clinic coverage in our buildings. And our elementary schools, they do share time. So that personnel splits their time between two of our elementary buildings each. Linda and I serve in some of our capacity to cross-cover that personnel in hopes that we can provide full-time medical coverage for those elementary buildings as well. When we're not able to do that or when we're pulled away, it is our wonderful front office staff who steps in and they field all the medical visits and the medical issues for that time being. As far as clinic visits, we have an average of 150 clinic visits per day, often exceeding that. And it's a mix of medication passes for students, mild injuries, students who aren't feeling well, and some mental health overflow. The good thing is for the majority of those visits, we're able to evaluate, triage, get students a little bit more comfortable so they can return to class and finish out their full school day. We also do a lot of parent communicating with that to try and work with parents on what their student might need and how we can get them feeling a little bit better or fix an issue so they can, again, return to class. As far as our roles and responsibilities, it's very simultaneous and it's very fluid. So Linda and I have a lot going on at one period of time. As I said, our clinic staff, they handle a lot of the day-to-day in the buildings, and that's in the way of our students and the visits and what they need in live time and maybe what teachers need in live time. Linda and I help support that. We oversee all of it. We're always available by phone for consultations as needed, or we hop in our car and we make a drive from one building to the next. A lot of what Linda and I do beyond that is a lot of regulatory compliance and reporting for local and state government as far as what they require of public school districts. We also handle our emergency response training and stock and making sure all of equipment that we have for those potential scenarios is up to date, running as it should be, and stocked for the school year each year. We do a lot of staff collaboration with not only Brighton area school staff, but also LESA staff. So if we do see a student or speak with a family member and that student needs support, then we work with coordinating on a care plan for that student or getting them an outside referral to resources that they might need to have a better experience while they're in school or take care of medical needs that they might have while they're in our buildings. We do all of the staff coordinating and training and implementing that training. And that could look anything from teaching or educating a teacher on how a student might present with a medical need to meeting with a group of bus drivers from transportation and educating them on how they can serve a student that might be riding their bus should a medical event happen. All of the items that you see with a star or an asterisk next to them are all items that we've gone over and above to ensure safety and preparedness in our district, not necessarily items that we had to do, but that we chose to do so we could be better prepared and have a safer district for our students and our staff. So with that being said, some of the safety initiatives that we've already tackled and some that we hope are to come, we've added additional AEDs across our district to increase proximity to people and availability. We've equipped each building with a medical emergency response bag, which is the first check mark that you see on this slide. What this is essentially a go bag. It has basic first aid equipment and medical response equipment in it. What this does is it decreases our need for outside resources. If we have medical staff in the building and we have the items and the equipment in place, we can take this bag, go wherever we need to within the building or on the grounds. of one of our buildings and evaluate and triage and try to, discern what's going on and how we can rectify a situation. If we need outside services, of course, we're happy that they're always there. We're happy to collaborate with them within our community, but a lot of this we're able to handle on our own because of the great personnel that we have. In addition to that, we more recently added bleeding control kits to each of our AED stations. And the thought behind this was that not just building staff could use it if a severe injury took place, but also coaches, after-hours staff, and then first responders. If they did come into our buildings and they needed additional supplies or equipment, it's in the hallway by each of our AED stations, and it's available to them to grab and go. And then leading us up to tonight's proposal that's on your agenda. As we worked through these and, we were always forward thinking and thinking, what's next? How can we do better? What can we do for our staff and our students in our community now? We were thinking, well, what about in a lockdown situation? So this is an extreme type situation, but if we have bleeding control kits in the hallway, but we're in a lockdown situation and a significant event happens in a classroom, students, staff, whomever may need a bleeding control kit to save a life, they cannot leave the classroom or they should not leave the classroom to grab the hallway equipment. So that would be a bleeding control kit for every classroom, which is what we're asking you to look at and consider for this evening's approval. So when we were already looking at these bleeding control kit options for each classroom, which would be a smaller version of what we have in the hallways already, Deputy Schuster and Officer Bell, who work within our district, as you know, they attended the Michigan State Police School Safety Academy, and they actually received a bleeding control kit that's in your board packet and is being proposed. And it's a bleeding control kit that's actually endorsed not only by our officers, but also the Office of School Safety. They were so impressed by this kit that they brought it to Linda and I to take a look at. And it was a collective agreement that this is this is the best option that we came across for our teaching and our building staff to have in the classrooms. Why do we love it so much? There is highlight in your board packet, but just to review some of those items. It's easy open, it's quick access, and it's designed with a layperson in mind. So you don't have to have medical background. You don't have to be a first responder. You don't have to have law enforcement training to use this kit effectively. It's a larger size kit, so when you're in a situation where your adrenaline starts pumping and you're distracted by maybe some of the chaotic situations, then it's easier to maneuver throughout the kit and have some of that improved dexterity with your hands. It's organized by color, and that matches a set of color-coded instructions that's organized by mechanism of injury. So again, adrenaline's pumping, it's chaotic. You may open the kit and you might freeze. Well, if you have blank said injury, then you just refer to the instructions that are included, which are very straightforward, and you know what you need to do next. The instructions are wipeable, so we can disinfect them, we can reuse them. As far as shelf life, it's very good because the only item that expires in this kit expires after 5 years. And the company that produces this kit does offer company tracking. So that would be a backup to us already keeping track of all of the kits that were within the district. And after that 5-year period, we would just replace the item that's already within the kit. It builds off of existing training that our staff has already had introduced to them. And our medical staff is actually already certified to provide this training. So we would be able to educate and train the staff if we implemented this kit throughout the district. We wouldn't have to bring an outside party in to do that for us. And lastly, I would mention that this design, so this company's design is also based on recommendations from the Committee on Tactical Combat Casualty Care. And this is significant in mentioning because if by chance Michigan moved to a legislation that required public school districts in Michigan to implement a Stop the Bleed program and Stop the Bleed supplies, a lot of the items that are in this kit are based off of that recommendation. And legislation is often based off of the recommendations from the COTCC. So we're trying to be forward thinking again and cover all potential bases when we're thinking about investing in a product. So if you have any questions, we're happy to answer them, but we just thank you for your time and letting us talk a little bit about what we do and a little bit more about this kit that we feel is so important for safety in our district. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate the
Just-
information.
Thank you.
If I could just really briefly just add on here is it is such a luxury. We think about our security, when we talk about our security team, where we have Officer Bell and Deputy Schuster and a whole team of people that are constantly being proactive with building safety. We have the exact same thing on the medical with Katie and with Linda. They are constantly ahead of the game. They're constantly looking at what's next and always out in front. And then our two teams, they work together along the way to keep everybody safe and healthy because these two things overlap. And I just want to say this is an investment from the Board of Education. You've invested in these people, and I think that we're getting a great return on our investment from these people. So just want to say thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you so much for what you do for security. We're blessed to have all these people. So.
Thank you.
Okay, the final topic I have on the superintendent report is JROTC, and I'm going to turn it over to President Myers.
Thank you, Dr. Ross. So this is a carry over from our last meeting, and specifically with regard to the conversation at the last meeting about the status of the submission of a application to the Army JROTC approval for their program. And just to provide a little bit of context before we have follow-up discussion on that, as some of you, or many of you may know, this has been a topic, the creation of a JROTC program here in Brighton Area Schools has been a topic that we have looked into for quite some time. Back in the fall of 2023, the County Board of Commissioners approved a resolution that allocated a certain amount of money under the ARPA funding to be allocated towards the start of a JROTC program here in Brighton Area Schools. With that funding, and we as a board ultimately adopted a resolution to support the pursuit of that program. At that point in time, we were led to believe that the Navy was going to be a program that was receptive to the creation of a JROTC program. Mr. Conley, several of the administrators, including Mr. Darga, Dr. Mosier, Mr. Evans, spent a considerable amount of time going to other schools, including Belleville, that had an existing Navy JROTC program, to see how we could leverage the success that some of those other programs had seen in building the program here. As part of the support that the board adopted at that point in time, also included the commitment to put the curriculum, which ultimately had to be developed, into the booklet that the students would be able to review and ultimately opt to sign up for in the February timeframe for the start of the 2024-2025 school year. So that process was all moving forward in the hope that there would be the program in place for the commencement of next school year. Unfortunately, for circumstances that were beyond the control of not only everyone that was involved in pursuing that in our district, but also the individuals with the Navy that were the initial sources of communication as the request filtered its way up the chain. Ultimately, we were given the unfortunate news that the Navy was no longer they were not going to approve a program. I believe it's something that is really it's beyond just regionally. I think it's a nationwide issue as far as trying to get the Navy to approve further programming for the JROTC. So we were moving forward with the expectation and hope that program would launch. And unfortunately, for reasons that were beyond any of our control, we ultimately hit a wall. And so at that point, we pivoted, and I say it was primarily a conversation and communications that Dr. Outlaw, Dr. Mosier, Mr. Conley were spearheading with other branches of the government to see what their level of receptivity would be to approve a program. From those discussions, there seemed to be the Army was the program that was most receptive to that. But unfortunately, because of by that point in time, when I say by that point in time, I'm talking about February, March timeframe, we're so far behind the 8 ball that it was really a practical impossibility for the application to be submitted, reviewed, and approved by the Army. Obviously, the window of opportunity for students to sign up for that program had already passed. And at that point, as we had there was further communication and discussion behind the scenes, the other issue that came up was what was the timing of the county's commitment to provide the funding that they had originally committed to within the constraints of the ARPA timeline. So when we fast forwarded to the last meeting, the discussion arose among the board. Where do we go from here? Are we going to direct Dr. Outlaw to submit the signed application to the Army for approval of a JROTC program? The timing of that, how that affected the timing affected the ability of the county to delay funding in providing the support under the ARPA restrictions. Since that time, I've personally spoken to Roger Deaton, who is he's one of the County Board of Commissioners. I believe he's the chair of the Government Affairs Committee. But I personally spoke to him to get further information regarding, from the county's perspective. My understanding from speaking with Mr. Deaton, and I know that Mr. Bird, the county administrator, has confirmed this, from a timing standpoint, the funding still can be approved and dispersed to the district in a manner that would allow a program to start at the beginning of the 2025-2026 school year. So basically a year from now, or a little over a year and a half from now. And Mr. Deaton indicated that would be something that the Board of Commissioners would fully support. And so that's where we are. So I just wanted to, clarify, based on the information I've received from Mr. Deaton, the timing of the funding and the support for the funding from the county is we certainly have time. And as I explained to him, one other factor that I also mentioned, when we did, in anticipation of the Navy program being approved, we did obviously offer that for students in high school to sign up. And unfortunately, only 4 students at the high school signed up for the JROTC program. At that point, it was contemplated to be the Navy program for next fall. And that becomes a challenge because for a couple of reasons. One, the Army contract requires a minimum of 100 students that are involved in this program. The other part of it is, from the county's perspective, in speaking with Mr. Deaton, and I think it's been discussed here at the board table before, because this is county, that part of it is county funded, there would be an expectation that this wouldn't be just an opportunity afforded to just Brighton students. It's a county funded program, and they certainly would expect that the program would be open to all students in all of the LESA districts, Pinckney, Heartland, Howell, Fowlerville. And so there's some logistics, obviously, that go along with that we have to, as part of that, and that's going to take some time to be able to coordinate the facilitation of inviting students from those districts to be a part of this. And so in any event, that's where we are. That hopefully provides some further context for everyone out there that may not be familiar with the background of where we started and where we are. I don't know, Mr. Connolly, do you want to then take it from here?
Sure. Thank you, Roger. Most of that's pretty factual. I can tell you that according to to Nick Fiani, who's the co-chair of the county commissioners, he said that as long as we bring the funds in this year and hold them for next year, we could start the program next year. But they have to be dispersed in this calendar. That's from virtually the top one under the top. So they're correct. And regarding having to have 100, and regarding to have 100 students to start, that's not true. It doesn't take 100 to start. According to the colonel in Knoxville, Kentucky, the commander, he said you can start with whatever number of students you have, whatever you have, sign up. He said the program is to build, though, over a 1, 2, and 3 year program and have to meet a certain requirement in a given amount of time. There's always a startup time, and that's a quota. And that means we could start with our 10 students, should we desire to. So, and obviously the goal is to reach 100 students, and then you would get a funded program. And if you don't reach 100 students, it's up to the Army to decide how to handle that, whether they put you on probation and give you another year or 2 to reach that number. It'd be their choice. Can't speak for them. And I would, at this point though, we have Major Brian Van Single here. He's an instructor at Michigan State University, and he's here. I'd like to have him come up. He came to our school a few weeks ago and met with students in the hallway visiting. And I'd like to have him give you a report of what he found out, if that's okay.
Sure.
Thank you. Major?
Good afternoon, board members, Dr. Outlaw, administrators, teachers, fellow community members. I am Brian Van Single. My wife, daughter, and I are residents here at Brighton. Since moving to Brighton several years ago, we've been highly impressed with Brighton schools. For the past 3 years, I've served as an assistant professor in the military science department at Michigan State University. In addition to this role, I serve as a senior ROTC instructor. I currently have 24 years in military service in the United States Army. I'd like to make it a point that I'm not speaking on behalf of the Army, that simply as a concerned resident. Back in November, my family and I were highly ecstatic when we heard that the school board had approved a JROTC. A few months ago, I contacted Dr. Outlaw and said, how can I be of service? Turned me over to Mr. Conley, who said, basically, I need some help gauging interest for our students if this is something that we want to do as a community, as a school, if it's best for the students. In my 24 years of service, my former colleagues, they currently serve as instructors and directors for JROTCs throughout the state of Michigan. So I contacted them, and on 23 April, we did a lunch and learn here. We had 4 students from 3 different high schools in Detroit. That was JROTC cadets. They planned and they prepared and they set up a lunch and learn here at the school. It was actually during the Lift Up that was presented here tonight. So what a great activity that was, by the way. But during that time, in that 90-minute period, the students there, those cadets there, they talked about their experience in the 3-4 years that they served in the JROTC and being members there. In that 90 minutes, they gathered interest of 121 students here at Brighton High School, have that list of students who said they'd be interested in possibly taking JROTC if it's offered here for the school. Although I've never served as a JROTC instructor, I have seen the benefits of what the leadership development, citizenship, service to community, service to this country can provide to our students. I've seen it at the senior ROTC level. I spoke with several of my former colleagues who serve as instructors, and I said, hey, I may have the opportunity to speak on as a resident here in Brighton to the community. I said, what would you, as instructors, what would you have to say? They suggested saying, we want the community to certainly know that one is not a military recruiting program. It's a leadership development and character program. Those students in JROTC, they're taught to teach that class. So they're teaching those high school seniors are teaching those peers and to build that experience and leadership. And as a senior ROTC instructor for 3 years, I've had several students who take senior ROTC every semester in college for their 4 years with zero interest in joining the military. I ask them why, and they say, I see the benefits of what this leadership, that experience has in all aspects of life. That being said, I turn it over to you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
First of all, thank you for making time to come in this evening. Just a point of clarification, you mentioned how many students signed up?
We had, in that 90-minute period, we had 121 students.
121 students, that's remarkable. My My daughter came home from school the day that you set up that event, and she mentioned she and her friends really enjoyed speaking to the cadets that you had come up to talk to our students here in Brighton. And it really was warmly received by many, many students in our school. So thank you so much for taking the effort to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for being here and for being at the school. And I mean, that's ultimately what, for this to be a successful program, that's really what it's going to take is inspiring the students to have a better appreciation of what the program entails, what opportunities for growth that encompasses. And because that's ultimately what's going to make a program like this successful, any program for that matter, but especially one like the JROTC. So thank you for doing that. Very much appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
So what's the next move going forward with the board?
Well, I think Mr. Kelly's not done yet.
I was having the major wait a second, just
Oh.
Bill's to be turned into a question, so
Yeah.
maybe the major could wait just a second.
Well, not necessarily for him, but my question is, when are we as a board, or what's our next step in order to move this thing forward?
Well, I guess that's part of what we have to talk about and decide is what is the next step. I mean, obviously, at some point, there would need to be a formal application submitted. I don't think that the submission of a formal application, and you probably know more about this than I do, or, it's not mutually exclusive to the idea of doing the things like this, to try to, whether it's soliciting surveys, whether it's meeting with students as part of like a lunch and learn program, so that when we submit because the application has a lot of representations about what we as a district expect this program to look like, some of which it's difficult, if not impossible, to be able to accurately answer without getting some of like that feedback, right?
Yeah.
And what that's going to look like, and kind of also circling back to what I mentioned earlier is that particularly because this program would be launched with the county ARPA funds, this isn't just a Brighton issue. I mean, this would have to be an issue that what the consortium requires all of the participating districts within the LESA boundaries to be committed to their allowing their students the opportunity to participate in the consortium JROTC program. Is that correct, Dr. Mosier? And that is not in place right now.
We have an agreement with Howell for us to, when we did this last, we asked Howell if we could send students there, and we had an agreement set through them, but it is not currently through a CTE consortium or a consortium through it. You'd have to get that approved with the other districts. I don't know how that works. That's way beyond my understanding, but you'd have to go through other districts to get approval.
So does that mean we have to wait then, or what do we do now as a board to continue to move this forward?
Well, I mean, I think if there ultimately there's consensus among the first thing is there consensus among the board to pursue the program? If the answer to that question is yes, then the question we have to decide is what does that process look like? And how do we maximize the ability to make this program as attractive as possible to all students, not just Brighton, and how does that fit into the timing of the application? Perhaps there's others that we might be able to recruit their assistance in moving the ball forward. So I think the threshold question is, do we want to move forward with pursuing the Army JROTC program as we did with Navy, but unfortunately did not come to fruition. And then if there's a consensus, our answer is yes, then that's where we need to get into the details. And I don't know, the details need to be ironed out tonight, but certainly that's something we need to.
When are we going to talk about taking a consensus to see if we're interested?
Well, I think we should do that tonight.
I think so.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I can't remember the specifics, Roger, but I thought it was at the last meeting where we had discussed a form that Dr. Outlaw needed to sign. And there was some conversation around having this discussion.
Yep.
Next meeting, and ultimately as a board, giving Dr. Outlaw, the board granting support for Dr. Outlaw to sign and ultimately authorize moving this forward.
Yes. And it was what he was referring to specifically was the formal application, which he then emailed to all of us, I don't know, a couple days after that last meeting for us to review, to be prepared to obviously talk about it tonight. So, yeah, absolutely.
there's a couple other people here that can speak. If this is the time we're going to deliberate this. So I'd like to bring up retired Major Mike Miller and also retired Major Jeff Knapp.
Good evening. I'll try to keep this brief. My wife said I sometimes ramble. Thank you for the board, and thank you for the population out in the audience. I recently retired from the United States Army last April after 40 years. During that span of time, the Army's given me the tour of the world, so to speak. But applicable to this discussion today, I'm a product of the Senior Army ROTC program at Eastern Michigan University, where I was commissioned as a second lieutenant in January 1985. Fast forward in 2001, I was reassigned to be an Army assistant professor of military science back at Eastern Michigan University. So I have that viewpoint of what the program can do for those students that choose and have the opportunity to go to college. When I retired coming back from NATO in 2005, I was offered a position to be the senior Army instructor at a high school in Detroit. And I did that for 4 or 5 years. So I have that experience where the parents who were in ROTC made sure their cousins, nieces, nephews, whatever, came into our program. And the comment from our currently serving major is not a recruiting tool, junior ROTC, for the service, but it is a program designed for citizenship and getting those students from the freshman year to graduate at their senior year. And many times my colleague and I would attend a student-teacher organization because we were certified teachers. And a lot of the parents would come to us as a second set of eyes, and they would empower us to make sure their sons or their daughters were going to class on time, doing their homework, and behaving themselves. So the program from both sides in the junior ROTC program, and will capitalize on what the Brighton High School is already doing. And that's good scholarship, athletes, and leaders. And we're focusing those attributes, whether the student wants to continue to college. I know initially I didn't want to, because we had the big three back in the day. Or if they want to get a job in the community, then they have those leadership skills honed through on-hand practice. They're teaching the freshmen how to do things. They're organized themselves to do community events, athletics. When I was in Detroit, I took our cadre, our students, to the Capuchin Soup Kitchen, so they would experience that hands-on community service. Some of them chose to go into the service, the Navy, Marines, Air Force, and since they were in junior ROTC, they could go in at a higher rank and higher pay. But as soon as they signed the paperwork, they had health care. They had the opportunity to get college, if again, as a stepping stone, wherever they wanted to go, and mature to see, is college in their future? Is it something you want to do, or proceed for another program? The Senior Army program, when they received cadets out of Detroit and other programs, those students had the basic skills down. But I remember some of the parents in junior ROTC, when they came to our table, they really appreciated having a set of other adult eyes and ears looking out after their children on the school ground, because some of those parents had 2 or 3 jobs. And again, dynamics of Detroit and Brighton are a little bit different, but my 2 sons came through Brighton when I was reassigned up here in 2001. One is in law enforcement, and the other one is a new second lieutenant in the Army. So I understand your concerns for what are my kids doing at school? But a lot of the parents, at least in Detroit, viewed us as a second set of helping hands to keep their kids on track or to mitigate things if there's any issues in the school. With Brighton School District is awesome. I don't know if any of you remember Coach Ritter, but my youngest son was track cross country. He got commissioned. He was on the Army 10-miler team. So what I see from Brighton School District, a lot of great, capable teachers. With the junior ROTC program, you're bringing in quality people that have a lot of hands-on experience leading others, working with others. My last job, I worked with 14 foreign nations. And we bring that skill set to bear if you give us the privilege of teaching your kids with the Army Junior ROTC program. And hearing my wife in the background, I'm gonna shut up and you're up.
I'm up, all right. Well, John asked me to come here tonight and show my support. I had no idea I was speaking. Thanks, John. My wife and I are both graduates of Brighton High School. I served 20 years in the military. We moved away for 25 years and came back to Brighton because this is home and the schools here are amazing. I also taught for a year down at Mumford High School, the junior ROTC program, 2017 to 2018. And that's actually how I met John. My wife's a teacher in the district and he wanted to get this ball rolling on this ROTC thing. So we've been working on this since 2017. It's taken a long time. And I was really hoping tonight that we'd have a vote from the board, a yay or nay. We do want to do this. We don't want to do this because obviously it seems like some people want to do it, some don't. Let's have a vote and get this thing going. It's a great program. I've seen what it can do for those kids down in Detroit, and it would be tenfold for the kids in Brighton because Brighton, yes, we have a lot more money here, but the school I worked at Detroit, even after 20 years in the military, those teachers down there were so dedicated, and the administrators, I felt so proud to be part of that just for the 1 year I was down there. They were an amazing group of people, but the main difference between Detroit schools and schools like Brighton are, and this is the example I give all the time, is on parent night, I had 104 kids that I was directly responsible for teaching. I had 3 parents show up. I go to parent night in Brighton, there's 30 kids in the class and there's 36 parents at the school. That's the difference. We already have leaders here. We can make these leaders great. This would be a great program for the community, and we should either do it or not do it and stop dragging our feet. Thank you.
Thank you, both of you, for coming and spending your time with us and sharing what the good news is about the program. I believe we should also put it to a vote and make that decision. There are a few more people in the audience that want to speak about this. Do you want to come up? Okay, well, they're here. It's okay, Roger?
Well, I guess, I mean.
I'm trying to influence that everybody gets an idea that it's a little bigger than
Well, I
a little
think,
bigger
I
than
mean,
just
I
John trying to pitch this.
I think just to cut to the chase, I mean, we unanimously voted to move forward with the Navy program last fall. So I think if conceptually we're still on board with pursuing a JROTC program, albeit now the Army instead of the Navy, I mean, we can cut right to the chase. I mean, if ultimately there's reluctance and there needs to be further questions about whether we should, move forward with the Army versus the Navy, then yeah, I mean, we can have further discussion about that.
Okay, what I'd like to do then is let's move it to board consensus to have the superintendent sign the application. We'll send it to the colonel in Knoxville, get the approval for the Army, work for a 2025 start date. And we need an approved program to work for a 2025 start date.
Mm-hmm.
He's given me a verbal on student count is an imperative in the first year to him.
That's not what the contract says, but
The colonel said.
I understand.
how it is. He's in charge, not us. He said, so we can go by that. Did you want to say something? There's a Marine. Okay, we got one more that has to.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
He said Marine. There really is a 220-pound stud Marine under here somewhere. But thank you for letting me speak this evening. Thank you, John. Thank you for the military gentleman that spoke prior. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. My wife's a Marine. She served in the Army. She's getting recruited to serve in the Navy. My daughter is currently serving in the United States Marine Corps. And I want you to know, I feel like I heard a whole lot of a 4-minute dissertation on why we can't get this done. And that troubles me. It troubles me that we have elected officials who can't figure out how to sign a contract. And that's disturbing to me. And I could be wrong, and I'll let you correct me on that if I'm wrong. But I bring that up because the JROTC teaches young men and women the kind of self-discipline, self-confidence, and leadership skills that they need to be a good team player in their community. And I know this all too well. I graduated from Howell High School. I was very undisciplined. I was a foul-mouthed young man making a lot of mistakes. I actually was a student at Brighton as well, because you had a building trades program, of which, by the way, only 12 people participated in. However, I heard words of investment in other words tonight. They invested into that program. And 3 of those people are actually contractors now in Livingston County and have built and live in some of the houses that some of you may have bought. I say all that to say, just like the group that was up before, I don't know how many kids are in that group, but you saw a small percentage of kids that had an opportunity to participate in something that made them feel special or wanted or needed. And I feel like that this program could do that as well. I have had the privilege of being a young man with no direction to going to the Marine Corps and being taught discipline. And at the end of the day, that's the key word that makes a difference in each person's life tonight is discipline. There are 2 things that changed my life: God and Marine Corps discipline. And so I would like to just say, for me, growing up as a young man with nothing, I went on to serve in the Marine Corps, be the vice president of 2 different companies in California, came back to Michigan 24 years ago from my hometown. And I oversee a global nonprofit where we've sent $480 million worth of free Bibles to 178 nations around the world. I say those things don't come unless you have discipline. And military structure, if you will, teaches discipline and then creates better citizens for our community. Lastly, I was hiring a logistics warehouse coordinator for the organization, nonprofit that I oversee. And 3 years ago, I interviewed people. And there was one young man who stood out to me, and I looked at his resume, and I didn't see military on there anywhere. But he was just, the way that he spoke, his eye contact, the disciplines that he had were different. And so I ended up hiring him. And I found out that he had participated in the JROTC. And there's a difference that these young men and women have. And so I just want to encourage you as a board, let's figure out ways to get this done instead of figuring out ways to not get it done. Because if we took a survey tonight, I think a majority of people would say it sounds like we're trying to figure out a way to not get this done. And I lovingly say this, these are elected positions that you sit on. And so let's care for our kids. Let's care and give people maybe an opportunity that don't want to play a sport or be in chess or whatever it is. Give them an opportunity to maybe learn some of these disciplines that make a difference in every one of these people's lives here. And just as I wrap up and close, if you served our country, would you stand up to your feet real quick, please? If you served, stand up. Let's give these people a round of applause. John, thank you for the work that you're doing on this. Thanks for figuring out a way to get this done. Sir, Mr. Is it Outlaw? What a cool last name, Mr. Outlaw. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. And I understand, do we need the board to approve this, or is this something that you could do on your own as a leader?
This is the board. The board did a resolution in the fall of last year. So the board would need to authorize this, correct?
Okay. Well, I humbly ask that you would do that as a United States Marine veteran and someone in the community. It made a difference, even in a small building projects class there weren't a lot of kids, but it made a difference in their life as well. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you. All right, so I think what we can do is, we can decide, I guess, first of all, if we support pursuing it, and at this point, are we at a point where we are, as a consensus, authorizing him to sign the application? I believe everyone received a copy that was emailed from Dr. Outlaw, so we have that. So I don't.
I'd like to do the consensus, and I think the opportunity for the superintendent to send it in, get it approved, and then because we were given the olive branch to start it in 25, will then help others that would be unsettled trying to push one through in 24 and take other kids out of classes and that would want to switch, because I believe there'd be a big change. I think when students found out it was there, they dropped the classes and re-signed for the Army ROTC class. That's my belief, my firm belief.
I think it's telling that the major was willing to come into the school with students from a program in Detroit and attracted over 120 signatures in a single 90-minute period for one day. That really is a testament to the leadership of all involved, including those that volunteered to come into the school and the students that stopped to speak. So that was very nice.
Then curriculum development, everything could take place properly and be put on the books, and Dr. Mosier would have a chance to do that, and so on. So that's what I'd ask the board to do. Brian Bradford's an Army veteran as well. He is kind of itching here to say something, but if he doesn't need to say it, he is set up for call to the public as well. So
that's fine.
So if the board wants to vote on it or take a consensus vote anyway and give the superintendent authorization to sign it, I think it's good. We can do it.
Yeah, I think at this stage it would be a consensus to move forward. I think that was part of the problem before, was we did a formal resolution and put the cart before the horse because we didn't even have a program approved from the Navy. So I think taking the incremental step in this fashion would be the best way to.
Verbally approved program that they could back up.
It was verbally and then they backed out of it. So I don't want to see that happen again.
It won't happen again. Superintendent can send the form in. I've been guaranteed it's instantaneous approval when he gets it, and it'll be done.
Dr. Krebs, Ms. Reed.
Yeah, and I want to start off by saying that my concern is not at all with the program itself. I come from a military family. My father served proudly in the United States Navy for 26 years. My mother served as well. My grandfather served. My uncles have served. Cousins have served. I went to a high school that had a very strong Air Force junior ROTC program, and I saw the good that it did for my fellow classmates and in our schools. So I am not concerned about what the program has to offer our students and our community at all. My concern is entirely with the level of interest. And we have been talking about this for a long time. We started talking about this at the board table back in 2018 when Mr. Conley first brought it to the board when Dr. Gray was here. We conducted some surveys of parents and students at the time. And the survey at that point in time, we had 65% of our parents strongly opposed to having the program in the district. 70% of the students that responded said they strongly expressed no interest in the program. The only 1% of the students, a grand total of 4 students, said that they had strong interest in participating in the program at that time. This year, with our board approval of the Navy program, it was put on the curriculum and available for students to register for the 24-25 school year. And we only got 4 students that signed up, 2 of whom were seniors. And it's really difficult to run a leadership program with only 4 students. I'm concerned that even though we have 120 students that came to a lunch and learn and were interested in learning more, that we don't actually have enough students and parents in Brighton Area Schools District that are going to have their students sign up for these classes as opposed to the AP classes that we offer, as opposed to the band and the art and the orchestra classes that we have. We've got a lot of electives that our students take. Adding this one means that we think we're really going to have 100 students. We don't have 100 students in the band anymore. And we start them in band in 5th grade. I think it's going to be very difficult for us to sustain this program long term. And it's a very expensive program for us to run. We have to have 2 instructors. This isn't a small commitment. We have to commit the space. Whether we have 4 students or 100 students, we have to commit the space. I'm concerned that if we go forward, this is going to be a lot of investment on the district's part, and it's not going to provide the benefits that we want for our students because we're not going to have enough students sign up. That's my concern. That was the concern that I expressed when we started this. I supported the resolution with the Navy on the expectation that we would, A, get the program, and B, have more interest from our students when they registered this year. And I was very disappointed that we only saw 4 students, because I would love to see a successful ROTC program at our high school. I absolutely would. But it doesn't seem to be there. And I don't know that we can force that from the board table. We're not going to force students to sign up for this program. We can't. And I don't think that our parents are going to put their students in this over all of the AP classes that they're sending their students to today.
Just out of curiosity, you referenced the percentages. What was the actual number of respondents? So when you say 65%, is that how many parents?
I can pull that up. So we had,
I say that in the context of the surveys that our superintendent has shared with the board.
yeah,
And
so
and
this,
the response, the
and
response rates to those surveys, there's
they're very low. I will grant you that.
thousands of students in the district and the responses are in the hundreds.
Absolutely. And this survey is no different. It went out to every single parent in the district. It went out to every student in the district. And we got back 227.
Yeah, so that's,
And I know, I understand the statistics of that.
well,
But I think-
it sounds,
but
it
it's
sounds
very-
different when you
it's
say
very-
65% of parents
It's
said
very
no.
telling to me that we had 4 students say they were interested in 2018, and we have 4 students that say they're interested in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, we have
That
a,
says to me that the interest hasn't really shifted.
but we have a member of the community who happens to have served in our nation's armed forces for over 20 years, 2 decades, that came into the school, and after 2 weeks prior, our superintendent said, like you, that there's only 4 students that are interested. This gentleman with students from Detroit came into our district and in 90 minutes got 121 signatures. I think we've discussed at this board table before the limited promotion that's been done to get students, make students aware of the opportunity. And I think we owe it to all members of the armed forces, not just the ones that are here tonight, but all who have served, including your relatives, to prioritize this in Brighton and prioritize this in our school district. And I fully support the program.
I certainly understand. I have significant reservations whether our students are actually going to see the benefit from it if it's not fully utilized by our students. And you have 8 children, I have 3. My kids are more than willing to say that they're into something the first time an adult talks excitedly about it, but whether they actually sign up for the class and carry through is a whole different problem. And I think that's what the registration numbers tell us, is that when the students go home and talk to their parents about what they're going to sign up for next year, and they come back and we only have 4 students that are interested in the program, that tells us that we don't have the support that we want to have for this program to be successful.
I think I mentioned this at the last meeting when we had the art teacher with her students and community stakeholders come in, that, I think we owe it to this community to commit to this effort. And I said it last meeting and I'll say it again, members of this board granted our superintendent a $1.6 million contract.
Okay, well, first of all, it's not
Well,
factually accurate.
it's,
And
well then,
Let's
that's
keep the,
so
let's
Roger,
keep the
please
focus
don't interrupt me.
on-
I have the floor.
Mr. Storm,
Please
keep-
don't
let's
interrupt
keep
me.
the
I have
focus
the floor.
on the
I am
discussion at
keeping the
hand
focus
rather
on the
than,
floor. Please don't interrupt me. I have the floor.
no, I'm the president, okay?
I have the
And
floor.
I'm telling you, let's keep the focus on the discussion of the
gonna let me
topic at
speak?
hand. Yes, I am.
What's contentious about what I just
Keep
said?
the focus on the topic at hand rather than
There's-
taking personal
there's
attacks based on
concern.
false information.
There's no personal
Okay.
attacks, it's factual. The concern of affordability of this program has been called into question. It was referenced
Anyone has
about,
said anything about affordability.
Ms. Reed just mentioned that the program will require 2 teachers. So I assume from that communication, there's concern around paying for 2 teachers. Did I misinterpret your comment, Ms. Reed?
No, you didn't.
Okay. So I feel, as an independent member of this school board that was elected by the public, and as someone who cares about the military, that we if we can afford to pay our superintendent what we're paying our superintendent, we can most certainly afford to support the individuals who keep our country free and allow me to serve in this capacity. If what I referenced was inaccurate, Roger, I would welcome clarification on what the contract is worth. If what I said is factually incorrect, I welcome being, the clarifying facts.
Well, you've been bringing that up in every context because you clearly aren't happy with it. That has nothing to do with the conversation of this topic. So with all due respect, Mr. Storm,
That's
let's
your
keep the
opinion.
focus
You're entitled
on
to that
the
opinion,
topic at
Roger.
hand.
I don't dispute
Okay.
you. You're
All right.
entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled to mine.
Anybody
It
else?
shouldn't be contentious.
Sure.
Okay. So when we approved before for the Navy, we had set a minimum of 10 students. Are we keeping these same parameters moving forward as we submit the application? So my concern is, and I am in support of moving forward with this, but I would like to clarify what our order of operations are so that we give it the best chance for success. So we're going to submit the application and simultaneously we'll be obtaining the curriculum so that we can have that approved, reaching out. I don't know how the consortium works. Someone will have to figure that out so that we can get approval for the other districts because they will also have to put that in their course guide. And we will need to be able to get into those buildings, or someone will have to, in order to encourage those students to come as well. Because,
Exactly what-
right, to make this a success, we need,
Develop it, and that's a
Yes.
great idea, and that's the plan. It's getting
Okay.
started here, but at the same time, this will allow us the time to get out to all 5 schools. And that'll open the door to all 5 schools. Dr. Ella initially wanted to keep it kind of home, but if that program is developed to that level, he would support it, I think, because we couldn't develop it that quickly to offer it to all the schools to start with.
Yeah, I think just the resolution had said that 50% of the people in it should be from Brighton. I think that was what was mentioned. Howell is not likely to sign up for this. They're struggling to have their number of 100. But
But they
I think
met it.
I think there are other school districts we could talk to, of course.
But they did meet it. and
They have not met it since 1819.
they
They've
just
not
met
met their
this
100.
year, I understand.
They are at 83 students, according to their superintendent this year. They haven't, it was 1819 was the last time they had 100.
Well, that comes down to transportation. Also comes down to LASA and getting the schedules on the same. Everybody's starting at a different time. It comes down to us getting together and having the school start, whether it's after Labor Day, whether it's the week before, because the schools are starting all different schedules. So it's almost impossible to interlink these schedules. And that is a board discussion and a board decision countywide. The boards decide the start date. So we have to come on, it's a developmental thing. It has to develop, but we have to get it running before we just nix it to start with. And those surveys that were running 18, Ms. Reed, were just awful surveys because they advertised 3 or 4 different branches of service, different languages, all things were combined in that survey. And I think in 200 and some recipients or 200 people responded. And I think the major who spent 3 hours in the school was a very valid, maybe be a 10% of those kids were interested seriously would sign up, or 20, whatever it would be from that 100 and some, maybe more than that. I think that was very valid. I think it was boots on the ground. And I think that's what the Army's known for. And he went in there, visited with the students, got a firsthand, interpretation of what was going on. And he brought back to me that information. I got to go visit while he was there a little bit. But the idea is that I'm confident that we'll make this work. And should we get behind it, we'll make it work. It's like any program. And I'll remind us about the robotics program with 4 kids that grew to 80 and won the world championship. This school is capable of doing that in all fronts. We can do it. And we just have to get our mindset that that's the right thing to do. So Brian's itching over there to say something. I don't know, Brian.
Well, let's finish. Let's let the
Okay,
board
that's fine.
members
He's in
talk.
charge.
Yeah.
So first of all, it's not a question of if we want it or don't want the program. I think we've all shown that we support a JROTC program when we voted unanimously to approve the program in the Navy program in the fall. My question is again, has to do with the enrollment. The requirements of 100 students are not just a random number. I think it's important. I'm coming at it from a curriculum perspective, I'll say that. The idea is that this is about developing leadership. When you have 4 students, it's really hard to develop leadership among 4 people. You really need these larger numbers to get the opportunities to develop leadership. And I think that's an important factor. So one of the questions I have is that if we direct Dr. Outlaw to sign the application, he's attesting to there being 100 students. I don't know how you can't confirm, you can't guarantee we're going to have 100 students. So my question is, how do we handle that?
Just if I may, so I reviewed the application. In the remarks, and specifically, there is a caveat in there saying that, given, the information that we've had to date, that we're not likely to have 100 participants as we begin this self-funded program. I mean, based on all indications, that'd be great if we can, but for purposes of, the providing, and they're going to do their own due diligence. They're going to, and they've got their requirements. And if they are going to waive the 100 participant requirement, then, that's their decision. So
Do we have to put a number in there? I mean,
No.
Are we just saying we're not?
no, we're not.
Mr. Conley, I think that the Colonel had said we have about 3 years, I think, to get to the number,
They'll
a
come in
3-year
and
ramp up.
they'll Do their audits, and they're expecting a gain in student count, and they're expecting to see, for a funded program, 100 students, if you expect them to pay for it. If they don't pay, if they're not expected to pay for it, they could give you some more, we'll call it time to develop. It's up to the Army. We're not in charge of what they do, but to get started, we can start with a classroom, and I believe 1 instructor to get started, because you're going to have 1 class, maybe 2, but with this amount of time to develop the class, it's very possible you'll develop into a few hours of classrooms and have enough students to ramp it up with this timing. And especially having a program in place that we can then get to our middle schools and get to county-wide programs and the consortium. I truly believe, and we've also talked to our director of Veterans Affairs here in the county, and he is willing to discuss, and he has discussed with Let's Transportation about moving students besides using our buses and how to move students between the schools. So Veterans Affairs is involved in this as well. So this is an all-in program, and everybody will be involved in helping us make it successful, not just us. And I believe we can do it. I believe we are well represented here today with people that have factual knowledge on boots on the ground. And I truly believe we owe it to our students and our citizens to give it a shot unconditionally.
So if I may, go ahead. If you want.
I was just going to say, I think an approval earlier will give us more time to ramp up. That was the advice that was given by, I spoke with a gentleman from the Marine JROTC, and that's what he said. He said, don't rush. He goes, take your time, do it right. So I think doing it now, looking at the fall of 25, you'll have a much better chance of being successful, having a window of time to lay the groundwork, to have the curriculum approved, all of those different pieces of the puzzle, getting your agreements. So just wanted to say, I think that the timing, having a little bit more time to lead in, I think would be beneficial to this.
Yeah. So, and since everyone's already had a chance to speak, from my perspective, I've supported a JROTC program when it was first raised in 2018, when I was on the board. I supported pursuing the program at that point in time. Obviously, when the issue came about again in last year, and there was the desire to look into the Navy program. I fully supported that. And I fully support this. I mean, I've always believed that being able to provide the opportunity is for you know, a JROTC program could be profoundly impactful for students, just like we try to do for all of the other electives and interests, and you know, all of the leadership and the benefits that come from that's, you know, I don't need to say what's already been said tonight, of all of the tangible benefits and growth opportunities and leadership for the students that participate in a JROTC program. So for me, it's not an issue of support. I've always fully supported it. I think ultimately, and there's been some suggestion that, well, maybe, you know, we need to do more, you know, we Brighton need to do more. The key, and this also goes back to what the county approved, is this just isn't a Brighton program. This is an issue that has to be addressed countywide, particularly with respect to the ARPA funds that are going to be the funding for this program. So I'm fully in support of having the contract signed. We've been very upfront about what our position is, but that's just a baby step in this process. And as it has been discussed, we will have a lot more work is going to have to be done in terms of obviously meetings with the county to try to coordinate the ability for this to be added to the consortium list, so that other students within the county, among all the LESA districts, will be able to participate. It's going to take a significant, I think, informational recruiting effort among all of the schools to have their students really understand what this is all about and the benefits that can come from participating in a JROTC program. I think another significant issue that we need to look at, I think Mr. Connolly raised this at the last meeting, is it something that is offered as a 0 hour or a 7th hour versus a, you know, because we've had in our last several meetings, we've had, you know, discussions about how we're not getting enough students staying in the art program, or our band is at 50% of what it was, you know, 4 years ago. And part of the problem is because as we keep adding these electives, all of which are tremendous opportunities in their own right, we're diluting the impact and benefit of the others. So I'm fully in support of exploring what is the best program that we can offer, whether it's, you know, during the normal 1 through 6 hours, whether it's, you know, a 0 hour or 7th hour. How do we maximize the ability to recruit students from the other districts to help support that program? I mean, these are all a lot of details that need to be fleshed out with the singular goal of making this program successful. And if it is, that's fantastic. And you know, and ultimately the proof is going to be in the pudding. But we're not going to get there until we investigate and explore all of those details. And I do feel, frankly, that this is a better process than we had with the Navy, because we were a little bit more under the gun timing wise. We didn't even have the approval from the Navy. This will give us an opportunity to you know, find out at the beginning what exactly the expectations are from the Army. We can do our own due diligence in our efforts to work through the curriculum, the consortium obstacles, exploring 0, 7 hour versus normal. There's a lot of those details that we can do, and we now have the time to do that. So, I'm in support of that for all of those reasons. So, do we have anyone else? All right. So, I guess the question is, do you support the program and want the superintendent to sign the contract? Ms. Conley?
Yeah, with a start date, fall of 2025. Yes.
Yes. No.
Yes.
Yes.
So Dr. Outlaw will sign the contract. That will be the first step in the process. And, you know, and then there's obviously a lot more that we'll have to, you know, as we move forward, you know, to do all of the things that we've talked about this evening and trying to make this program successful. So first of all, thank all of you for being here this evening. We appreciate your support. I know some of you professionally, and I mean, I think you know where I stand on this, but as a board, we appreciate your attendance here. So we'll move forward. Okay. All right.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
All right, that moves us, that closes the superintendent report, moves us to the call to the public. If there's anyone here this evening that would like to address the board, this is your opportunity to do so. Our process is to fill out one of the index cards at the rear of the room and place it in the box to the left of Dr. Mosier. I will then call your name to provide you with the time to address the board. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. It's not a question and answer session. It is only the opportunity of the public to address the board. When there's 30 seconds left in your allotted time, Dr. Krebs will hold up a yellow card indicating you have 30 seconds left. And when your 3 minutes is up, there will be a red card that will be displayed, and that will conclude your time for this evening. So, all right. So the first one is Brian Bradford.
Thank you for letting me speak. I wish I was able to speak a little bit earlier because I'd address you specifically, Ms. Reed. There is no greater program that you could teach than leadership. I'm a United States Army veteran. I've lived in this area since 2004. I'm the former chairman of the board for the Brighton Veterans Memorial, current chairman of Veterans Connected, and that organization has raised and given away over $600,000 in our community. Where did I get my start? In the United States military. I learned leadership. I learned discipline. I learned these things because that's what they teach. They teach stick-to-itiveness. Harvard said in a study that they did, and it was later supported by Stanford, and found that of all successful people, there was only 2 characteristics. It wasn't grades, wasn't aptitude, wasn't that you came from money, it wasn't skill or talent. It was grit. The ability to fall 7, get up 8. The ability to grind through things. And that's what J-Rock teaches. J-Rock teaches these things, and so does the military. It's the only difference is that they don't go to war. They don't necessarily have to go to war. The second was critical thinking skills. I hear all the time from business owners, because my business is in downtown Brighton, that these kids don't have discipline. They don't show up. They don't grind. They don't know how to get through things. I grew up in a house of 5 boys in 1 room on government assistance. I ground. I built myself to a position where I became a vice president for a Fortune 100 company. Then I started my own firm and built a multi-million-dollar practice. Those men that were sitting here and ladies that I know, Fortune 500 companies drool over military background. Why? Because we know how to get things done. We don't know how to fail. We just move forward and we grind and we grind. I asked some people about what military does and why they hired people. And they said because they're well-trained, competent workers. They tend to be reliable. And in particular, they follow direction and they roll up their sleeves and grind it out until the problem is solved. And that's what we need to teach youth. That's what we're missing today is in our teaching of our youth, is we need to teach them how to survive in this dog-eat-dog world that we live in, that so many things are against them, that we have to give them the assets to grow and to win in life. And every one of you that made it through life got there because you learned how to grind. You learned how to succeed by falling forward. Failure is not failure. It's merely a learning experience. And I thank you for moving forward with this. I will be in this community for a long time, and I will remember your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken Schmick.
Hi, thank you. I'm Ken Schmank. I'm also on the city council for the city of Brighton. I'm not here representing the city council. You probably don't hear this much, but I really first want to thank all of you. You guys have a tough job, right? The time and the dedication that you put in, I sincerely thank you all for that. Just real quick on the JROTC, and I know we've heard a lot, and again, thank you for moving forward with the investigation of that. But My dad was JROTC, right? Went to, Ohio State, continued with ROTC, got a degree in banking and finance, and then, of course, went into the military. My dad became an Air Force captain. He was a pilot. After that, he went into General Motors and became a corporate pilot for GM. And just real quick story on that. I was one of 8. I thought we were the poorest people that grew up in the neighborhood. I really did. And after my dad retired, he came to Brighton High School, this is a long time ago, and gave a talk on how to be a pilot. First thing he said, JROTC, go into the Air Force. After it, I took him out to dinner, and I said, something really hit me hard during your speech. Some of the kids asked, how much can you make as a pilot? And my dad said, when you start out, you'll be flying the little commuter planes, things like that. But as you get up into these corporate jets or the big 747s, he said, for example, I made $300,000 a year. And I about fell out of the chair. I looked at my mom and said, I thought we were broke. So anyway, thank you again for doing what you do. And thank you for moving forward and taking a look at JROTC. Thank you, guys.
Taryn Fry. I know some people left, so they may have not stuck around for. All right, Jason Wolford. He left. Corey Shaw. Chris Tarkowski.
Hi, good evening. I'm here today on behalf of my Hawkins fourth graders. We spent a couple of weeks in journalism unit discovering, doing some close reading of articles, lots of news articles, understanding how articles are organized, what content a journalist writes, what do they put in their article, structure, organization, what editing expectations might be for an article, how to use strong word choices, the design of the perfect headline, and what to discover around our school that is newsworthy. And they named a newspaper and have started publishing, or have published now, by the end of the year will be 10 editions of the DNN, which there was many choices. This was the one that they picked, the DNN, the Darkowski News Network. So I brought a couple of editions for you. Here, I'll paste them out at the end. And it's been an overwhelming positive response. You see kids out just noticing what's happening around the halls of the school. Mrs. V is a very popular topic of our articles. They notice her amazing artwork in the hallways. They interview her. They go into classrooms and interview teachers and kids about the projects that they're working on. They highlight the musical and the different musicals we've had, the one at Scranton, the one at the high school, art shows that are around, of course, Scout retiring. And we get teachers coming in like, listen, for the younger grades, they just get one per class so that the teacher can read it. We've had kindergarten class come back with questions like, so they have to do a further inquiry and then go back and answer the questions of the kindergartners. We have another second grade teacher says, listen, these second graders want their own copy. We need some more copies in our room. So they got to hustle out, get some more copies, deliver them. Our paper comes out on Fridays and they're hand delivered and they're received with big smiles and like, yes, the DNN is here. So I just wanted to spread the good news that we've got some really darn good writers out here, and I'm really proud of them. They're very proud of themselves. I share emails that I get from parents and from community members that have read it. I had a parent stop me at St. Patty's Day at Label, and she's like, tapped me on the shoulder. She goes, excuse me, are you Chris Tarkowski? I said, yes. And she said, I just have to tell you, we look forward to that DNN coming home every Friday, and we spend time reading as a family. She goes, it is just awesome. I was like, well, thanks. I'll pass it on to the kids. And they really do all the writing. I'm literally just the editor. They have to give me a handwritten copy first. I talk like, well, this has no punctuation. This has no periods or capitals. There's no paragraphs. And they have to go back and edit it and revise. And then they have a document that they just publish right into the DNN, and it's their baby. They do all of the work. So DNN is alive and well, and we're loving it. So I just wanted to celebrate them today. Enjoy. Oh my gosh, sorry. Knocking things over.
Hello. All right, so good evening. I'm Janelle Vermilio. I'm the art teacher at Hawkins. And I know it's like a really super busy time of year and not everyone had a chance to make it to the art show. So I thought this would be a wonderful opportunity to highlight our incredible district-wide art show. You may not realize this, but this is only the second year that we've had our JK through 12th grade art exhibit in like over 10 years. The art team is so excited to have brought it back as an annual event, and it sounds like the community and the parents and students are as well. A huge shout out to my colleague, Rebecca Marzoni, for ensuring everything ran smoothly by working with high school administration, custodial staff, maintenance staff, and her amazing high school students who literally helped us set up the entire day before. We could not have done it without them. Opening night was a huge success. Both floors were packed with it was busy, excited students and parents, community members looking around to find their artwork and enjoy all of the incredible pieces on display. My personal proud art teacher moment is that I made sure to exhibit at least one piece of art from each of my students at Hawkins, displaying over 600 works of art just from Hawkins, in order to represent the vast array of learning that happens in my room. We also have a sign-in book that we encourage all visitors to sign, and there were over 500 signatures until people stopped continuing like the number count and went a little rogue, which was fine. So then we had like 10 pages of doodles, illustrations, sweet notes, and kind words of encouragement to all of the art team. It's my favorite part to get to look through there and see former students, and it was really, really great. And so this year's district art show is now complete. We've picked up all of our individual buildings artwork from the STEAM Center, and again, thanks to Rebecca and her students who packed up everything. And now we take on the task of sending it all home. And so on behalf of the art team here at Brighton, we hope to see you next year. And our goal is to make it bigger and better year after year. So thank you for supporting the arts.
Krista Sens? Krista, oh, sorry, I didn't realize it.
You're still clapping.
Hi, my name is Krista Sens, and I teach kindergarten at Hawkins Elementary School. Our youngest learners at Hawkins, the kindergarten classes, have made a profound impact on the Brighton community this past school year, and every year, actually. We don't often hear about our kindergarten classes, so I thought I would take a few moments to talk to you about our impact on the community. Our kindergarten social studies curriculum invites us to study ourselves, our family, our community, and our location on earth. We learn how to get along with others, how to spread love, gratitude, kindness, and joy throughout our classroom, grade level, and school community. In the spirit of this curriculum, several of our K classes design and participate in community service projects each month of the year, every year. In September, we always just come together to get to know one another and to build our classroom families. We celebrated the similarities and differences among us and recognized our uniqueness. We spoke openly about how we can best support each other and accept our learning differences. We became loyal and fierce defenders of our peers, especially in the face of others who misunderstood our differences. Such profound learning at such a young age. In October, we honored our custodial staff and also personally thanked our lead custodian for her hard work, who then said that we made her feel so special and so loved. In November, we honored our military veterans and active duty military personnel by making U.S. flag collages U.S. flag collage thank you cards with messages and pictures intended to bring joy. We sent them to Selfridge Air Force Base just in time for a special ceremony that honored the vets and an Air Force group that was about to deploy. In December, we made beautiful winter scene placemats for our neighbors, because we always talk about our neighbors in our neighborhood, for our neighbors at the Brighton Manor Comfort Care Assisted Living Memory Care Facility, that's a long name, right down the street from Hawkins. The smiles on the seniors' faces were absolutely priceless. The kindergartners, once again, spread joy and love. In January, we continued our social studies discussions about needs and wants. We supported the needs of others through Gleaners of Brighton. Over the course of just 3 short days, we watched our food collection quickly grow past our goal of 100 and then past 200 items of food. Gleaners reported that in just those 3 days, we provided 336 meals to the Brighton community. More kindness, more support spread by our youngest learners. In February, we brought love and joy to our own school by making, decorating, and hanging paper hearts with messages of kindness throughout the hallways of Hawkins for all to see, read, and feel special themselves. In March, as was decided upon by this board, we studied a variety of career paths, including firefighters, police officers, paramedics, and postal workers. We showed our gratitude for their hard work by writing and sending 125 thank you letters. I cut this down from 9 minutes. Can I just tell you that? I'm so proud and passionate about my kindergartners. Can I finish? I have one more paragraph. Thank you. I literally spent hours trying to cut it down from 9 minutes. Yeah, I'm a very passionate kindergarten teacher who thinks that their kindergartners are amazing. So, I lost my spot. In March, it was as was decided upon by this board, we studied a variety of career paths, including firefighters, police officers, paramedics, and postal workers. We showed our gratitude for their hard work by writing and sending 125 thank you letters to each local organization. That makes 625 letters. Again, our youngest learners are bringing smiles to our community. In April, we extended our learning about the earth and other curricular areas by decorating over 350 brown paper grocery bags with Earth Day themes. These beautiful bags were used to bag Kroger customer groceries in Brighton on Earth Day. Maybe one of you have received one of these beautiful pieces of artwork. Our most recent community service project took place on May 1st. May Day. In celebration of this special seasonal holiday, we planted over 200 flowers and walked through the neighborhoods surrounding Hawkins and delivered flowers to 200 front doorsteps as a surprise gift of love, beauty, and joy. One neighbor even called Hawkins and said, quote, "I have really been having a rough time lately, and your flowers really made my day. It was what I really needed. Thank you," unquote. Again, our youngest learners are making a profound impact on many lives in the Brighton community. Our kindergartners are hard workers and deep thinkers who make a big difference, and I am so proud of them. I can't wait to see what these young learners accomplish as they continue to reach out to our community while they grow and learn here at the Brighton Area Schools for the next 12 years. Thank you for allowing me to talk longer.
Thank you.
I'd like to add, as a community member who received the flowers again for the second year, I just love that. It makes me so happy when I see them on the porch. I'm going to touch them next year and see them doing that.
Jason Ringett.
Heavenly Father, in Jesus' name, let your Holy Spirit fill this room, soften everyone's hearts. Bless the school board with wisdom, discernment. It's time that we start opening up our school board meetings with prayer and giving praise and glory to God and blessing our schools. I'd like to say thank you to all the school board members for coordinating the Scranton trip to Washington, D.C. Thank you to Dr. Outlaw and the teachers for being chaperones on the field trip. Dr. Outlaw was very kind of you buying tickets for our kids and taking them on the tour of the U.S. Capitol building. Thank you. Many years ago, we had people pushing a narrative onto our school kids of having eating disorders and cutting themselves, creating a problem where there was no problem. Now we have Yellow Ribbon Week, promoting and pushing depression, suicide issues onto our children needs to stop, creating more problems. Fast and forward to the COVID pandemic of imposing healthy quarantines onto our kids, stay at home, mandating face masks, face masks onto our children because some people care more about the money than they care about protecting our children's health and safety. There's no peer-reviewed replicated scientific studies back up these reckless actions, which cause our kids to have depression and suicide issues. LESA and Brighton schools are multi-million-dollar industries. How about we stop all funding that is paid out to LESA and get rid of all their employees who have been hired within Brighton schools? Use that money for Brighton school kids who need help, to see local psychologists and counselors within the community. Many families cannot afford getting their private professional help. Our school board members are public servants, and some of them act like educational dictators and having kangaroo courts going after other school board members, not having transparency on many subjects, and not being transparent on the Title IX investigations, not including the whole school board on union contract negotiations and giving the union office in the high school. We are the greatest spiritual moral crisis in American history. Wickedness and indoctrinations have infiltrated our schools. Radicals promoting socialism, which is communism, promoting anti-Christ rhetoric, anti-Semitic filth, woke religion, sexual perversion, science posted up in the schools, gender pronoun surveys given out, sexual explicit books in the school libraries. SEL is a Trojan horse with all those sexualization tactics to destroy their innocence. DI stands for discrimination, exclusion, indoctrination, causing division, racial tensions among people. It's a cancer destroying our culture and schools. Anyone promoting or pushing this crap needs to be fired immediately. Critical race theory in the schools teaches our kids that American laws and institutions and our values and traditions on our language is racist. How did we start a nation with our founding fathers, with prayer dedicating its land to God, and now having communism pushed within our schools? You want to turn around our schools? Be bold and put God and prayer back into our schools. 2 Chronicles 7:14, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin. It will heal their land. America's answer is prayer, turning back to God, open up our school days and sporting events with prayer, putting Bible back into our classrooms with the 10 Commandments, U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, hanging out throughout our schools. Remember, God wins and God bless you all. Thank you.
Lisa Alamat. No? Joe Tavarozzi?
In June of last year, the light of our family's life, Mateo, was extinguished by the Brighton School District. The Brighton School District failed our son, Mateo, starting with multiple failures from the top. Every single superintendent around, they understood the number one aspect of their job, keeping our children safe. So when the experts in the newscasts, morning and night, warned of the dangers of the Canadian wildfires, they listened. They canceled all their outdoor activities, including their field days. Again, these superintendents all understood. When it comes to the safety of the children under their watch, you do not put these kids in harm's way. So Matt, you cannot find one of your experts, not one, not in this city, not in the state, not in this country, that's going to say, you know what, Matt? Really good idea. Go ahead and take a nonverbal, highly energetic, excitable child with Down syndrome and run them out into that poisonous, smoke-filled air full of thousands and thousands of dangerous chemicals. And go ahead, Matt, keep them out there in that poisonous air in 87-degree heat and run them 10 times harder than at any point in his 2 years in this district. That expert, Matt, does not exist. So what was happening to our son as he's rapidly sucking in this poisonous air? Those poisons are going directly into his bloodstream and now headed right for his lungs and every other organ within his body. About 30 days prior to our son's passing, he was asked to put together an All About Me board. And on this All About Me board, they said, Mateo, what is your favorite season of the year? Do you know what season our son chose? Summer. Do you know what our son was doing on the very first day of summer vacation last year? He was in a casket at his own wake, compliments of the Brighton Area School District. And after a summer that rhymes with tell for our family, one that we would not have made it through if not for the love and support of our family and friends. Do you know what we received from the state on the very day that our son was to start second grade? His autopsy report. Every single board in America, it doesn't matter if you're a multinational corporation like McDonald's or you name the school board, you have to have accountability. I'm going to leave you guys with this. Proverbs 14:25. A truthful witness will save lives. A false witness is deceitful.
Thank you. Marie Tabarrosi.
Why are we speaking out today? Because this is what Mateo would have wanted to ensure no other child in this district, or this country for that matter, dies from 100% preventable death. As parents, when we send our children off to school, we have a reasonable expectation that our school district is not going to put our children in harm's way. That is not what happened in June of last year in the Brighton Area School District. How does our family go from Thursday, June 8th, where we are all together celebrating the accomplishments of our eldest son at his school's honor night, to 1 week later where we are together again crying over the casket of our son, Mateo? I don't have to tell you, because each and every one of you already know. And by the way, I'm certain there's video of that honors night out there somewhere. Go ahead and listen. That voice you hear cheering loudly from the top of the bleachers for the first 50 kids or so, that was Mateo. And he would have continued to cheer for each and every one of those kids had we not said, Tay, we have to keep it down, buddy. That's who Mateo was, cheering on others and making everyone smile. Since mere hours after our son's passing and continuing on the last 11 months, the Brighton Area School District has done nothing but brush our son's death under the rug. The morning after our son's death, Matt sent out an email to every parent in the school district saying we lost one of our own bulldogs, something to that effect. Did Matt take 5 minutes to send a personal email with his condolences to the mother and father of Mateo? No, he did not. Did Mr. McAuliffe, Mateo's principal, take 5 minutes to send Mateo's parents an email? No, he did not. Why was that the case? I believe their guilty conscience wouldn't allow them to do so. Our son was not just a boy with Down syndrome to be brushed under the rug. His name was Mateo, and he was the most amazing human being that I have ever known. Mateo was confident, handsome, smart, witty, and wise. He was loving, compassionate, caring, intuitive. He was athletic, determined, focused, and driven. And this is Mateo, Brighton, Michigan, 2023 Field Day. Does it look like our son enjoyed your field day, Matt? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I think, is there any more, Dr. Mosher? No? This last chance, if anyone wants to address the board. I do have one from Mike Miller. Just wanted to, and I'll share the comment. If you, I was just going to read it into the record. So the comment was from Mr. Miller, when the new Scranton was built, we were promised no entrance over on Lee Road. Then with the millage pass funding and entrance, we were told it would be buses only. The increased traffic on Lee Road is of major concern to the residents in that area, and we are strongly opposed to opening the new entrances to private vehicle traffic. I'll just take this opportunity. This is a topic that did come up. When that drive was approved, it was approved only for bus traffic. And a big part of that was because if it was going to be open to vehicular traffic, and I think this is important for the community to know as well, the road commission would have required much more extensive traffic studies. There would have been significantly greater, hundreds of thousands of dollars of road widening and other improvements to Lee Road that would have been required in order to allow that entrance to be used as a full vehicular access. That was not the direction in which that was approved and constructed. And so, yes, you are correct. It is only limited to bus traffic, which is why there's a gate. There, as with any new entrance, there's some operational challenges that we're trying to work through to make it work as designed. I appreciate your comment, and we certainly are going to.
Just heard at the beginning of the meeting, other than the old Dave's farmhouse, like
Sure.
across from that entrance, and when I heard it at the beginning, I was like, okay, now.
Yeah, no,
One step at a time, dude.
This is.
I mean, are we able to talk about it now, just, or should we, you want to wait till the end?
And that village passed by a small margin, and I don't think it would have passed if everyone in that area thought that it was gonna be privately owned vehicles using that, which we were promised it wouldn't be.
So let's take this up. Yeah, let's take this up. I mean, we're going to ultimately, regardless of what we talk about, it's not going to include opening up that drive to vehicular traffic. I mean, that's not an option because that wasn't permissible by the road commission. What we're going to be primarily talking about is what's happening on the south side of coming in off of the actual Scranton building. Between there and there's another gate about halfway between. We're getting some traffic conflicts with events and kids walking, and those are the issues that we're really going to be focusing on, not opening up Lee Road to vehicular traffic. That's not going to happen. So the road commission wouldn't let it happen even if we wanted to. So, all right. Okay. That concludes the call to the public and moves us to the 4 action items. Item A, regular meeting minutes of April 22, 2024. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Reed.
Support.
Support Dr. Krebs. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0. Item B, 2024-2025 LESA budget. This is the budget that was presented by LESA. It's the same that was presented, or the resolution for approval, I should say, that was presented as part of the packet for future action at the last meeting. Do we have a motion to approve the 2024-2025 LESA budget as presented?
So moved. Support.
Moved by Ms. Reed, supported by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0. Moves us into for future action, item A, appointment of representative to the LESA PAC. Dr. Elwell.
So I'm going to read the recommendation from Michelle Allison, our Director of Special Education. She is recommending Katie Boggs as Brighton representative to the PAC, the Parent Advisory Committee at LESA. Katie is a parent of a student at Maltby Intermediate School. Katie is a strong supporter of special education over the past several years, and she has been a previous PAC member and has been impactful during her time supporting the district and county level. Katie truly understands the value of educating the whole child, academic, social, emotional, and physical development. She knows that learning takes place over time and celebrates small victories as much as significant gains. Katie is an undeniable asset to our school community and is a fierce advocate for all students to reach their full potential. So she is being recommended as our representative.
All right, any questions?
I mean, I guess, she's been in this position prior, which comes from, she's been in this position for a while.
I think she was previously in it. I think there's another person that's in it currently, so she would be returning to this position, and she's the recommendation of our special education director, Michelle Allison, to you.
So this is coming from Michelle Allison,
Correct.
that we recommend her.
This is a recommendation to the board.
Okay, I guess, again, some of these appointed people, and I don't know why it comes back to us, that we have to vote to approve these people. But I don't know who this person is. Personally, Michelle Allison, You know, I've heard some things, I've heard other things. I'm not saying good or bad, but just to take her recommendation to say, yeah, you should appoint this person. When it comes to us to appoint. This person's never come and said, hello, my name is here. I'm representing you 7 people up here on the board. I don't know who this person is. I don't know what she stands for. I have no idea. But we're supposed to approve her.
This is the process. We can invite her to the next meeting.
I understand.
Yeah, no, I understand. But sure.
Have any of you guys ever met her? I don't remember her coming here.
Who establishes the process and what, if we have to vote,
Right, that's what I mean.
do we have control to change the process if we're voting?
I think it's a requirement by LESA. It's not, she's not representing the board per se. This is a parent advisory committee.
That's acknowledged. I think
Yeah.
what Bill's saying.
Well, I thought he said we representing us. I mean, she's not representing
What he's
us.
saying is like it's the validity, why are we voting for someone that none of us have even met?
I think it's a requirement by LESA, but we can, I mean, certainly look into
It'd be
it.
nice to at least be able to put a face to the person or something. I mean.
That's why it's for future action.
Well, I believe last year, our representative came in on the day that you voted and you had a chance to meet. So I would assume that we would do the same thing. So I will make sure that we do the same thing. Okay.
Would it be possible to get an opinion on, like, do we as a board have control over the process? Do we have the ability to influence the LISA policy that drives this?
Yeah, if you want to do something different, at the end of the day, we have to have somebody from our district on this panel. If you want to do something different, I would, this is a volunteer position, so I wouldn't make it, these are unpaid volunteer positions, similar to your own. So it's out of the good graces of this person's heart, that she's going to step up and do this. So I think having her come here and meet, I think that might be a good step, just like what we did last year. I think we did it at Future Action last year, so that probably would have been better to have her here tonight to introduce herself to you all, but we'll do that for the next meeting. Okay?
Item B, Human Resources Report. Mr. Anastasov?
Yeah, I'll take that. So good evening. So what we, first off, we put this report on for future action. It's usually just normal on the action because there's really no items on this right now to be able to vote on in the future. The only one on there for that is Matt Evans, who was voted in the last time. So the reason we bring this to you on for future action is because we want to at least bring forward the resignations, the retirements that we have, and the changes leading into next year, leading into the vacancies that we have. So the 7 retirement, 4 resignations, plus some other changes led to some of our current vacancies. So we did already post for the majority of our teacher and counselor vacancies as of the 3rd. They'll actually be closing this Friday. So right now, admin are actively seeking video screeners, those type of things, and we'll probably be starting interviews next week. So our hope is to bring them our recommendations to you, to the board on June 10th. Would be and then we'll add those to the report and it'll go on for action at that point. Just a couple active postings so that you're aware of. The BHS grade level posting ended April 26th. We actually got 66 candidates or applicants total. For that, we actually chose 20 to go through the video screening process, where we then chose 8 who are being interviewed in the first round tomorrow. And then we'll still have 1 or 2 rounds remaining after that. And again, our hope is to bring them to you, him or her to you on June 10th, June 10th as well. And then the band director is the other active one. We started a couple weeks ahead of time on the band director posting. So that ended April 9th. So working with Mr. Evans, he's going to be putting out the screener invites at the end of this week. And again, that'll be ready to go by June 10th as well. So we're rolling well. The number of retirements and resignations for our BEA staff is very low this year. So the turnaround is right now looking very, very good.
I wanted to ask a question on the 3 resignations that took effect in March. Are we placing permanent teachers in those classrooms for the rest of the school year, or are those students with subs for the rest of the school year?
Those were
in the list.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at, those and when there was placed. So all those we have not placed any, as of that date, any permanent individuals in that. So they would have been long-term subs at that point, or building subs, who again is a sub, but used to the building, where then we backfill the building sub to be able to support the building at that point. But we have not permanently placed any individuals at that date or after. It's been since October, November, where we did permanently replace some in the beginning, where we had those 2 or 3 hires.
Qualifications for the long-term subs then, is that different than the daily subs?
The long-term subs, we do have to get a waiver for those. So the daily subs, they still have to have the same qualifications for that. Obviously, when we do seek for long-term subs, we look for, first off, can we find somebody who is representative of that content area? If we can't find that, then we look for somebody who's familiar with the building itself, like the building subs. But the only thing additional we need to go forward with is we do need to get a waiver from the state to be able to allow them to go beyond the normal time frame if they're consecutive. Daily sub, they can go every day all year long, but if it's consecutive assignment, we need to get a waiver with the, and usually that waiver is 90 days, and then we have to extend it to 180 days, and that's usually the max that MD will allow if a district is searching for that replacement. Yep.
And Scott Middle School, regarding science for Mr. Baldwin's retiring.
Yes.
Put it out there now for STEM
It
teachers.
is. Yep. Scranton actually looking for a STEM teacher, and with some of the shifting of the positions, looking for a science teacher as well. So both of those were posted the 3rd and up this Friday.
Any responses?
Yeah, we have, as of when I checked it today, I think both the science and STEM position were in kind of the mid-teens, probably as far as applied, which is pretty good regarding those like secondary positions, because they can be a little bit harder to find. I did not look in there to see how many was submitted or qualified at that point, but that was the number that we had.
Thank you, Mr. Anastasov. The next
Thank you.
item, C, policy updates. Is that right back to you, or?
I'll start
Dr.
us
Ella?
and then I'll turn it over to the policy committee. Just as a brief overview, just reset, we have been working on this for a year. We've had many people that have been involved with this. This entire work began last April with the board resolution. From that, we formed a subcommittee of 3 board members that worked on this. We had our financial auditors that assisted with us. We had members of the PTO, administration, teachers, sponsors of projects, our accountant. We had all kinds of people that were involved in working on some of the procedures first that we piloted, and then ultimately here we're codifying some changes to policy 5501. And then there are 2 other policies that are linked to that needed some language adjustment as well. But I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who was involved in all of the work to get us to this point. And then I'm going to turn it over to the policy committee, see if there's any other comments or questions for the committee.
I would just like to start off by thanking Dr. Outlaw and the folks in the finance department for all the work that they put into this. They were a huge help to the subcommittee that I was on with Mrs. Marks and Dr. Krebs, where we started this work. And they did all of the heavy lifting when it came to drafting procedure documents, creating some new forms and processes for us to gather information about the fundraising that's happening around the district, get that into a process that is both, repeatable and transparent for the public. And I think we've got a really good start. I don't expect that this is the end of the road here, but I think the policy that you have in front of you for review and comment gives us a really strong start. If at first, I think the most important thing to me is that it expresses very strongly the district's commitment to transparency and fairness around how fundraising is conducted throughout the district, and some strong checks and balances on how money is managed, so that the folks we're asking to give us money to fund field trips for students or other activities in schools can very clearly see what the money is being requested for, how it's being spent, and what process we're going through to make sure that that's appropriate. The other thing that I'm excited about as a board member with this process is that it provides us, as well as the public, transparency to see actually what people are asking for money around. And it gives us an opportunity to better evaluate whether we're making the right choices with our budget. I would be concerned if we were getting lots of requests to do fundraising for classroom materials that I think we as a Brighton School Board should be funding. I would be concerned if the fundraising showed us that there were needs within our district that we weren't paying attention to in the budgeting process. So I think this gives us a new tool to assess the effectiveness of our budgeting process. And I think that's going to be a great thing for us going forward. The other thing that I am very supportive about with this policy package is the clear guidelines that it provides for the actual accounting of the money. And it helps to make sure that our business office has the tools that they need to help guide our students and faculty members and sponsors and coaches through the process of fundraising, and doing it in a responsible way. Because the last thing that we want is for somebody that is trying to do the right thing to be accused of walking away with, a couple of extra $20 bills shoved in their pocket. When that's where we're going to do everything we can to make sure that things are done correctly and appropriately, so that our community that is so very generous with our district and our students and our organizations can continue to feel confidence in that generosity. So really look forward to any feedback that folks have on the policy language that's been presented, and how we can make it better so that we can continue this work.
The cost associated with kind of keeping things where we know what's coming in and we have services that are going to help us. Is there a concern on that? How much we'll lose to pay these firms that take the money in that,
Are you talking about some of the groups that have been engaged to facilitate like electronic payments for
and the
fundraising?
percentages that they keep? It's a high number.
I think that's a fair question. I don't think that's answered by the policy language here.
Probably not.
But definitely something
If
that.
we require that on them though, if that form is required, then it would apply, right? They'd have to suffer, we could lose a significant percentage of the donation.
Mr. Jones, talk about that
We
today.
actually had this discussion this morning because this was a concern that came to me. As part of my budget process, I've been going around and meeting with all the principals, and that's the thing they brought up to me, is that one of our goals in the fundraising process was to minimize as much as we could the handling of cash. When you do that, you go to these electronic systems and then they charge a fee. So the principals came to me and said, well, we understand these are great practices, but it's costing us more. So it's something we are going to look at, is how's our best way to collect safely with the least amount of cost. Yes.
Thank you.
I just have a procedural question. I noticed, the first time I noticed it, I think, excuse me, 5501, where you have a link to a document. And just want clarification that when we approve the policy, are we also approving the document that's linked to it if we revise? Because the question becomes then, if we later revise the document, does that become a policy revision or just a document revision?
That's a very good question. And I should have thought of that as we were sitting in the committee. I don't know how that would work technically. I guess the question for the board is, how do we want that to work? I don't know if we want the form content itself to necessarily be in policy. Best practice would probably be not to.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah, that's why I was asking.
I think we would want the flexibility to be able to change the form outside of having to approve a change to the policy. So can we just reference the form and not have the link?
Or could you even say, which is what we have in other policies, that it would say something responsible for the activity in a form approved by administration, or, I don't know if there's a change to the form itself, if it's got to be something that the board has to approve every time, right? The policy itself is there, but.
If that's the consensus that we don't want the form itself to be tied to policy, we can revise the language so it's it references a form that's available
Yeah.
that the administration has to maintain and make available and then not have the link. That might fix it. Is that okay?
And I believe if we make a form policy, actually, the form itself, I believe, has to actually be into the policy itself as like an appendices or attachment or those, one of those type of things.
Administrative
More than a link.
guideline
Yeah, it would
could
have
be
to be like
that too.
administrative guidelines, so we'd have to put the entire form in its written statement
I see.
there.
Yeah.
And so, but I think it is a good idea to probably remove that link because it wouldn't be needed at that point then.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, anything further on the policy updates? No? Okay, moves us to item D, property tax L 4029. Mr. Jones?
Yes, so next month I'll be bringing for the board's approval of our annual, what is known as the L 4029, which is the document that we provide to all the taxing entities that collect our property taxes, giving them all the information of what they use to charge those property taxes. It's a requirement to do every year, so I'll have those next month.
All right, next item E, final budget 2023, 2024, and projected budget 24, 25.
So,
Jones?
Next month, I will be bringing the final budget for this current year, which is the 23-24 year, and then the initial budget for next year, which is the 24-25.
One question is, and we don't need to get into it, just respectful of time tonight, but maybe in preparation for next meeting, is the shared service impact. I, saw reference in Dr. Outlaw's updates to us, and obviously it's something we've talked about in prior meetings. So if there could just maybe have a bullet or two that speaks to that, if you don't already, that'd be super helpful, just to understand the potential impact of that in the out years. Thank you.
All right. And finally, item F, the medical response kits for the classrooms. There was obviously the presentation here this evening. Dr. Allah, you want to further address that?
Just there's three different quotes that are in there. It was vetted obviously by our medical staff, but also our police officers. They did a full vetting. The one that they are proposing tonight, it's not to exceed $48,745.34, which is the bid price. That is their recommendation. They think this is the best product for us to have. It is purchasing 500 of these kits to go throughout the district. So every classroom where students are at will have one of these. So that's their proposal, and I think they shared the details on it earlier. But do you have any other further questions about?
Is that the kit that was actually passed?
That was the
that
kit.
the
That was a sample. Yep, that's Officer Bell's kit, but that's what we would be purchasing.
And I'll just add that it would be grant funded because
Oh, yes.
the security grant that we got this year it's in the governor's proposal for her budget for next year. So we're assuming that we're going to be getting that security grant for next year.
Okay, anything further? All right, that closes the for future action, moves us into board committee chair reports, community recognition. I mean, we can start with the conversation about the Scranton Drive. I'm sorry?
Can we save that one for last?
Sure.
We'll actually talk about that one.
Yeah.
For the policy committee, you saw the work that we did. We've got some other things that we are working on that are not quite ready yet. And we will meet again first week in June. Can you pick a date? Yes. Okay, that's it for me.
Anyone else? Any other topics? Okay, so as Mr. Storm referenced earlier in the meeting, we have this issue with regard to events that are taking place at the Scranton field behind Scranton, in particular with respect to the use of the access drive, the portion of the access drive from the Scranton parking lot traversing north to basically where the stands are. And there's another gate there that is supposed to be closed during events. conceptually and by design, as has been discussed previously, that road was originally designed only for bus access and obviously for emergency vehicle access. That was specifically dictated by the Road Commission's refusal to allow any full vehicular access from Lee Road without a bunch of studies and hundreds of thousands of dollars of road improvements. So the road was approved for the bus access and bus lane only. Question then became about the use of that road for events and for enhancing the accessibility and inclusion for handicap accessibility. The decision was made as part of the design, and Mr. Trombley was, he was involved with that through the course of that process with the facilities committee. The parking spots for the handicap accessible were provided there, but obviously there had to be a means of actually getting there. And so the challenge then became, how do we provide for that access and accommodation without then just having everyone take advantage of driving in there? It's not designed to be a parking lot or even a turnaround space. And so the Bond Facilities Committee, I don't know, it was last summer when we talked about this at length, a couple of meetings, I believe, and ultimately the decision was made that we would, during those events, we would put up signs so that during those events, people would hopefully see and understand that access for those events is really only supposed to be for people that are going to be availing themselves of the parking for the handicap spaces. And that's it. It's not to be a drop-off space. There's no parking. I know there is a sign at the very entrance to that drive. Well, let me back up. And which is why, of course, we also included rocks, and there's a guardrail for further safety. Yeah, and there's some signage. My understanding is not all of the signage has come in yet. And I think part of what we're going to talk about is having maybe really further enhancing some of the signage so that people can really understand that that's just not, from a safety standpoint and an accessibility standpoint, that's not supposed to be a drive for people to go down and drop off children or park. And it's really limited to that just the handicap accessibility. But clearly that message is not being received, and I get it. And it's just a matter of, educating the public and making them aware that. And I think part of what we need to also try to do is, whether it's BARC or, whatever, groups are using those facilities, try to get those groups to send out communications as well. Hey, look, if you're coming here, especially if they're coming from outside of our district, and they may not have any knowledge.
Well, from the bond meetings that I sat in, that gate that we put up was a gate that we had left over. And the idea of putting that gate was to allow people to get to the handicap parking spot. So if there is an event, because there was no handicap parking back there, they could get to it. Now, in that bond committee meeting, I remember asking, we put those gates up. The issue is going to be who's going to take care of, to make sure the gates are being locked and unlocked at the proper times. The response I got was Matt Outlaw, John Thompson, Scott Jacobs, and I believe Deputy Schuster were going to meet and come up with a plan. Now, has that plan ever taken place, Matt?
I wasn't part of that meeting, so I'll have to get back to you on that. I'll have to check on that.
No, we were sitting right back here, and that was your response, that you were going to have this meeting and you were going to come up with it.
Yeah,
So-
I believe that John Thompson met with the folks from BARC. I don't want to speak out of turn. I'd like to be able to check with them on
Well,
that.
but again,
So,
the idea was you, Jacobs, Thompson, and Schuster were going to get together and develop a plan, and you were going to do it. Now, obviously, I'm assuming that plan hasn't taken place, because is there anyone responsible for taking care of that gate at this time?
there is, I just don't want to speak out of turn.
But
It's not a gate issue.
Well, yes, it is,
No, it
because if that gate is shut, then they can't go down the road.
The gate is shut. It's not,
There are two gates, yeah.
So everybody's aware, I've been sending videos for like a month as I'm going up the road and watching little children almost get run over by vehicles. It's a major, major safety issue for everybody, elderly, grandparents, parents, etc. And lots of parents stop every single week and they're like, what are we doing about this as a district? As the layman who wasn't involved in any of the early meetings and not knowing anything about like the road laws regarding that drive, I think most of us have traveled interstate. Like if you go to Chicago and they have the passes that you can, when you pull into a gate, the gate swings up. I don't know if I have my car keys on me. For work, we have, just to give you an illustration how simple this is, like this is what I use for work right here. But could we allow grandparents that, or anyone that has a physical handicap that needs access, some type of a fob, like just like in some drive, put it on the little fob as you're pulling in and the gate goes up and it allows them to go through. So it's not just wide open access.
But Andy, were those gates shut or open?
So here's the situation. The gates going into the parking area so the easiest landmark would be the dumpsters.
Yes.
So that there's gates on both sides. Both of those gates are open, so you can pull into the parking lot nearest the dumpsters.
Yep.
Then there's the gate by the dumpster that gives you access up the drive.
Yep.
Both of the gates, obviously, into the parking area open. And then the gate that goes up to the parking area, as Roger said, to allow the people who need access to the handicap parking spaces is wide open. But human beings are creatures of, taking the path of least resistance. And if the gate's open, whether the handicap parking spots are full or not, every single spot all the way down the side of that shoulder in the road is used as a parking spot.
But the gates ahead of that were shut.
Sometimes, periodic. Some games, they're closed and you can't get through. And there's always people who park on the left side of the road in addition to the right, in front of the gate if it's closed, because they know no one's going to drive through that lane. Sometimes the gates are open and you can drive through, which, people do, and go out to Lee Road.
Because again, part of our conversation was the fact that I think we even said if the cops or Green Oak wanted to go out there and write tickets, they were more than happy to go write tickets out there, and maybe that would stop. And again, I think that was something that you would discuss.
Who's responsible for enforcement? Like that was one of my questions. I mean, one is, I like what Roger said about the communication, right? We don't want to come across as being heavy-handed with the community.
Right.
Most of the people in the community want this issue addressed.
I don't think no parking signs are heavy-handed.
No. I mean, look, go around town. I mean, it's.
You're right.
So let's set the signs aside. Who's responsible for enforcing? Like, how do we improve the communication? And then is there a way we could provide gates that actually work via some form of a pass that's easy to administer and allows elderly grandparents or someone who has a physical.
Again, I think if
impairment
Green Oak would come through there and if we had no parking signs and started writing, I'll guarantee you that's happened at Hawkins during those big tournaments. They're parking all over the place. Green Oak will come through there. Guess what? The next day, the cars are not parked in the fire.
So you had mentioned over this weekend that you called the police. Who did you speak to? Was it there?
I talked to Officer Bell, who contacted Green Oak to send somebody out. We do have some signs that are coming in. I think there's a sign there that says handicap only, but there's a follow-up sign that was ordered that Scott Jacobs said will be here this week that indicates that you'll be ticketed. So making that clear, that was the question mark from the police.
But
So
we talked about this 8 months ago. And we're just getting some signs now.
no, there's signs there that says handicap only. It says that already, but that's not enough. We needed to go a step further and make it very clear that you will be ticketed for a violation.
But will they be ticketed? Again, that's my question. We're
Yeah.
gonna spend money on signs. Who's gonna ticket them?
I mean, is there a way we could improve outbound communication to the community? Just make like a focused
I
communication?
think Roger's idea of going through BARC and making sure that they communicate not only to our own people, but also those that are visiting, to be very clear about following traffic flow information, don't.
In addition to the district?
Yeah, I think
Exclusively BARC or in addition to the district?
I think that anybody that's using that facility, I think it should be included.
Isn't John Thompson, doesn't he run BARC?
Well, no,
I mean, he runs
Ken
community-
Greibel runs BARC,
He runs Community Ed.
correct.
And he's part of that.
Yeah.
And he was supposed to be the one that was supposed to foster this and get it straightened out, according to the bond committee meeting.
So I think that the idea of putting out communication is a great idea, and I think it's something, I already wrote it down. I think that's a great idea, and I know we're talking about it with the bond committee
If
tomorrow.
nothing happens, you can put all the signs in the world. If there's no action, then it means nothing.
Well, here's the
Absolutely.
other, I think there's actually, unfortunately, maybe even a bigger problem. and that is, you can put all the no parking signs you want out there, but if people are dropping off, if they're just driving in to drop off, there's no turnaround, and you still got all this traffic.
Little kids are walking.
And they're gonna
out.
say, I'm not parking, I'm just.
Someone is
Right?
absolutely gonna get hit by a car.
There needs to be, I mean, the sign says at the entrance, it says handicap parking only beyond this point. That's the big blue sign right at the corner of the building. But that's not gonna dissuade somebody, especially when it's raining.
We need a sign that says
No access.
Yes, beyond this point.
And-
other than handicap
And violators will be ticketed or subject to being ticketed. I mean, something like that.
And that's what Scott has ordered that. He's going to have the specific proof for it for the bond committee tomorrow with the language on it. But it indicates that you will be ticketed for violation.
Once it goes in, they have to be ticketed.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it's really not.
Complete. Agreed. So.
So I guess I'm seeking just confirmation that the district is intending to send out communication to notify the community that this is an issue and we need the community's help to not park on that drive.
I think people that are involved in the activity, we wouldn't send it out to 10,000 people that don't have any part in that road and whatnot.
That's why I'm
But
asking
people that are
for
in that act,
clarification. So you don't believe it makes sense to send it out to the school community via your normal distribution?
I think people that are actually doing it, we could talk about it tomorrow at the bond committee meeting, but I'm happy to send it out to whoever you want.
I think we can over communicate that.
I agree. What
Sounds
would be
good.
why not?
Sounds good.
So Matt, if the signs are saying they're gonna be ticketed, who's gonna ticket them?
The only people that can ticket them is law enforcement. It's going to be Green Oak Township. So,
Who's talking to Green Oak Township?
so Green Oak Township, we're obviously we're going to talk about this tomorrow. But one of the question marks is, do we provide them schedules? They're road patrol. They should be able to swing through there. And we have hundreds of people that are in the building. I don't want to speak for what their rotations are, but we can have a follow-up conversation with Green Oak about what that looks like. But we literally have people there all the time. We constantly have one event after the next. And so I think we'll have to have dialogue around how that works, because they can't have somebody there 24 hours a day.
Yeah, okay, I understand that, and I hear where you're going, but again, the question is, I think it has to come from you, and you have to call Green Oak, and I think you have to tell them that on Saturdays, that's handicap parking only, and there's no parking allowed, and if there's cars parked there, come through there and ticket them, please.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So, okay.
Yeah, we'll go directly from me. Our Officer Bell, she did that on Saturday. Actually, Bill Schuster was involved too. They had that communication with Green Oak, but I will do that as well. I'll make sure.
But Green
very
Oak, I
clear.
don't think ever showed up for at least over 3 hours.
Okay, so I'll make that call and check in with the chief.
I was there.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything further? Pardon me?
I drove the site really bad. I don't have gas for all the agencies and so on. It sure is improvement over what we started using to try to get in the graphs. And the busing over there, now that it says hot ticket, students drop off.
Yeah.
Expensive. Huge improvement. Yeah.
Huge for safety purposes too.
I'm in.
Yeah.
My support, you're there all the time. The board member and Dr. Elliott, so I'm in the schools.
All right, so that concludes the board committee chair reports, moves us into the next item 10, closed session superintendent evaluation.
I move that we go into closed session for the purpose of conducting an evaluation of the superintendent at the request of the superintendent.
Motion by Ms. Reed, any support? Support. Supported by Dr. Krebs, any discussion?
Can't we just have it up here?
What's that?
We can just have it here, can't we?
No, it's statutorily is the right to be in closed session.
No, I meant, but can we have it here in?
Oh, I don't care.
boardroom
I mean, what?
Instead of,
Does
We'll have to go
create
get the
issues
stuff.
with our online?
So we'll have to turn off we'll have to turn this off.
That's fine.
But
Okay.
then it won't be recorded when we.
It'll be
go back.
recorded in the minutes from Star. You just
Come
won't
back, we'll
have
just
the,
adjourn, so,
Right.
It won't be on.
right.
we'll have to go down and get our stuff, but
Okay.
whatever you want.
All right, so we have a motion by Ms. Reed, supported by Dr. Krebs. Any further discussion? Roll call, Ms. Ackerman.
Mr. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. Storm?
Yes.
Mrs. Marks? Yes. Mr. Trombley?
yes.
Dr. Krebs? Yes. Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes. That passes 7-0. All right, we will be convening in closed session at this point. We'll conclude all of the items on our agenda. So when we emerge from closed session, the meeting will be adjourned. Thank you for coming this evening, and we are adjourned into closed session.
Roger, if you guys want to take a quick, I mean, I'm going to be short.